Hello, wonderful people. Welcome to another Harry, your story destination. We have an absolute treat for you today. What if Harry and Wednesday were secretly twins separated at birth by a ministry conspiracy? If you're enjoying these stories, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support keeps the stories coming. With that said, let the adventure begin. Chapter 1, The Girl from Nowhere. Harry jolted awake, his t-shirt clinging to his skin with sweat. That dream again. The third time this week. He fumbled for his glasses on the nightstand, knocking over a glass of water in the process. The Dursleys would have a fit if he stained the carpet. Harry quickly grabbed a dirty shirt from the floor to mop up the spill, then sat back on his bed, trying to recall the details before they slipped away. A girl. Always the same girl. Pale skin that seemed to glow in moonlight. Dark hair pulled into tight braids. And eyes that seemed to stare right through him, knowing him somehow. Not menacing, exactly, but unsettling. Like she could see all his secrets. "Who are you?" Harry whispered to the empty room. Outside his window, the suburban monotony of Privet Drive baked under the August sun. 2 more weeks until he could escape back to Hogwarts. 2 more weeks of Aunt Petunia's suspicious glares, Uncle Vernon's bellowing, and Dudley's constant torment. The dream felt different from his usual nightmares about Voldemort or the Chamber of Secrets. This felt like a message. A connection. Something tugging at him across some vast distance. Harry pulled his trunk from under the bed and dug through his scattered possessions until he found the photo album Hagrid had given him. He flipped through the familiar images of his parents, his mother's brilliant smile, his father's proud stance, until he reached the last page. He'd looked at these photos 100 times, but something made him pause at a picture of his parents holding him as a baby. Something about the way his mother cradled him. He squinted, bringing the photo closer. Was that another baby? The photo was slightly torn at the edge, as if someone had deliberately cut part of it away. "Potter." Uncle Vernon's voice thundered up the stairs. "Get down here and help with breakfast." Harry shoved the album under his pillow. The mystery would have to wait. 3,000 miles away, Wednesday Addams sat perfectly still in the bay window of her room at Nevermore Academy, watching lightning split the perpetually stormy sky. Her roommate Enid was still asleep, a riot of colorful hair peeking from beneath her blankets. Wednesday hadn't slept. Not since the vision started. A boy. Skinny, with untidy black hair and a curious lightning-shaped scar. Eyes that matched her own in intensity, though not in color. His were green. Brilliantly green. And behind those eyes, power. Raw, untapped power that called to something deep within her. She pulled her journal from beneath the mattress and added another sketch of the boy to her growing collection. This time, she'd seen him in what looked like a castle. A school, perhaps. Students in black robes and pointed hats. Magic, but not the kind her family practiced. Something more, structured. Confined. A soft knock at the door made her snap the journal shut. "Come in, Mother." Morticia Addams glided into the room, elegant in her form-fitting black dress despite the early hour. "You've been having the visions again." Not a question. Her mother always knew. "Yes. Your father received a letter this morning. From England." Morticia held out an envelope with elaborate purple wax seal. "It seems your presence has been requested." Wednesday took the envelope, examining the seal. A coat of arms featuring a lion, eagle, badger, and snake surrounding the letter H. "Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry," Wednesday read aloud. "I've never heard of it." "Few in America have," Morticia said. "It's quite exclusive." Wednesday broke the seal and unfolded the parchment inside. "Dear Miss Addams, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted as a transfer student to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. While it is unusual for us to accept students from abroad, particularly those who have not previously attended a recognized magical institution. Certain circumstances regarding your magical heritage have recently come to our attention. We request your presence at the start of term on September 1st. A representative will meet you in London to assist with necessary preparations. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress. Wednesday studied her mother's face. You don't seem surprised. Perhaps it's time you knew the truth, Wednesday. Morticia moved to sit beside her daughter. When you came to us, there was a letter. We were instructed not to show it to you until you were 17, but circumstances change. Came to you? I don't understand. Morticia took Wednesday's hands in hers. You are an Addams, Wednesday. Never doubt that. Blood is only part of what makes a family. But you were not born to us. The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. Objects on Wednesday's desk began to tremble. You're saying I'm adopted? Not exactly. More like, entrusted to our care. Wednesday's face remained impassive, but her eyes burned. Show me this letter. Back at Privet Drive, Harry was scrubbing dishes while Dudley loudly complained about having to wait for his second breakfast. Harry's mind was still on the photo, on the possibility of someone, having been cut out. The doorbell rang, and Uncle Vernon grumbled his way to the door. Harry heard muffled conversation, then his uncle's voice rising in alarm. We don't want any. Go peddle your freakishness elsewhere. Harry dried his hands and peered around the kitchen door. Uncle Vernon was attempting to close the door on a tall man in a slightly shabby suit. Mr. Dursley, I must insist on speaking with Harry, the man said calmly. It concerns a matter of utmost importance. Harry recognized him immediately. Professor Lupin. Remus Lupin, the new defense against the dark arts teacher according to Mr. Weasley's letter, smiled tiredly at Harry. Hello, Harry. Might I have a word? Uncle Vernon's face purpled. You know this person. He's one of my professors, Harry said, stepping forward. From school. That was enough for Uncle Vernon, who threw up his hands. Fine. Take your freakish business outside. I won't have it in my house. Harry followed Lupin into the backyard. Professor, what are you doing here? Term doesn't start for 2 weeks. I'm afraid there's been a development, Harry. Something Dumbledore thought you should be informed about personally. Lupin looked around the tidy suburban garden. Is there somewhere more private we could speak? Harry led him to the far end of the garden, behind Aunt Petunia's prized hydrangeas. What's happened? Is it Sirius Black? Has he been caught? No, nothing to do with Black. It's about. Lupin hesitated. Harry, what do you know about your family? Beyond your parents, I mean. Harry blinked in surprise. Nothing, really. The Dursleys never talk about my mum's family, and I don't know anything about my dad's except they were wizards. Lupin nodded thoughtfully. Harry, I was good friends with your parents. Very good friends. We shared, almost everything. Something in Lupin's tone made Harry suspicious. Almost? It seems Lily and James kept some secrets even from their closest friends. Lupin pulled a photograph from his jacket pocket. This arrived at Hogwarts yesterday, sent by a family in America. I believe you have part of this same photograph. Harry took the photo with trembling hands. It showed his parents, just like in his album. His father smiling proudly, his mother radiant. Baby Harry in Lily's arms. And there, in James's arms, a baby girl with a tuft of dark hair and piercing eyes. I don't understand, Harry said, though a part of him was beginning to. Harry, you were not an only child. You had a twin sister. The world seemed to tilt beneath Harry's feet. That's not possible. Someone would have told me. Hagrid, or Dumbledore, or, very few people knew. After the attack, when your parents were killed, there was chaos. Your sister was, Taken. We believed her dead, until recently. Taken? By who? And why am I only learning about this now? Lupin placed a steadying hand on Harry's shoulder. That's what Dumbledore is trying to determine. All we know is that your sister was taken to America and placed with a family called the Addamses. And now, it seems, she's discovered her connection to you. Harry stared at the photo, at the baby girl who shared his birthday, his blood, his parents. What's her name? Wednesday. Wednesday Addams. The Addams family mansion loomed over its cemetery, perpetually shrouded in mist despite the summer heat. Inside, Wednesday sat in the library, surrounded by open books and scattered papers. The letter from her infancy lay on the table before her, its parchment yellowed with age. To whom it may concern, the child in your care is in grave danger. She must be kept separate from her brother until they come of age, or the prophecy will be fulfilled before either is ready to bear its burden. Her name is Wednesday, born July 31st to Lily and James Potter. When the time comes, you will know how to guide her. Keep her safe. Keep her hidden. The fate of 2 worlds depends on it. The letter was unsigned. According to her parents, her adoptive parents, she corrected mentally, it had arrived with her on a stormy November night in 1981. They'd found her on their doorstep, wrapped in a black blanket, this letter pinned to it. Why keep this from me? Wednesday asked, not looking up as her father entered the library. Gomez Addams, dapper in his pinstriped suit, twirled his mustache thoughtfully. We were instructed to, my dear. And the instructions were, quite persuasive. Persuasive how? Let's just say they came with certain magical guarantees. Breaking them would have had consequences. Wednesday looked up sharply. What changed? The boy in your visions, I suspect. Harry Potter. Your twin. Your magics are reaching for each other, breaking down the barriers that were placed between you. Wednesday ran her fingers over the Hogwarts letter. This school knows who I am. So it would seem. Then I'm going. Gomez smiled, a flash of wild glee in his eyes. We thought you might say that. Your mother is already packing the family hearse. Wednesday raised an eyebrow. The whole family is coming. But of course. An Addams never faces a potentially deadly adventure alone. That's what family is for. For the first time in days, Wednesday felt her lips twitch in what might almost be a smile. Whatever she might discover about her birth family, the Addamses were still hers. The last 2 weeks of summer passed in a blur for Harry. After Lupin's revelation, he'd been moved to the leaky cauldron in Diagon Alley, for his safety, though Harry suspected it was more to keep an eye on him. He spent his days wandering the magical shopping district, his mind spinning with questions. A twin sister. A girl who'd grown up in America with a family he knew nothing about. Would she hate him? Resent him for the life he'd had while she was shipped off to strangers? Did she even know about him before now? The night before the Hogwarts Express was set to depart, Harry sat in his room at the leaky cauldron, staring at the photo Lupin had given him. He'd pinned it beside his bed, his eyes returning to it constantly, as if afraid the baby girl might disappear if he looked away too long. A knock at his door jolted him from his thoughts. Come in, he called, expecting Tom the innkeeper with his dinner. Instead, Ron and Hermione burst in, both looking windswept and excited. Harry. Hermione flung herself at him in a hug. We've been so worried. Mr. Weasley told us you'd been moved here, but not why. Is it because of Sirius Black? Mate, you wouldn't believe the rumors going around, Ron added, dropping onto Harry's bed. Dad's been working overtime at the ministry, and he says something big is happening, but he won't tell us what. Harry took a deep breath. It's not about Sirius Black. At least, not directly. He pointed to the photo on the wall. It's about her. His friends crowded around the picture. Is that, another baby? Hermione asked, peering closely. With your parents? That's my sister. My twin sister. Ron's jaw dropped. You're having us on. I'm not. Her name is Wednesday. She was taken to America after Voldemort killed my parents. Everyone thought she was dead, but apparently she's been living with some wizard family called the Addamses. The Addamses? Ron's eyes widened. Bloody hell, Harry. The Addams family isn't just some wizard family. They're kind of notorious. What do you mean? They practice really old magic. Dark stuff, some say. They don't use wands or follow any wizarding government. Dad says they're technically classified as borderline beings by the Ministry because their magic is so different. Hermione frowned. But if she's your sister, that means she's a witch. A regular witch, like Harry's a wizard. Maybe, maybe not, Ron said. If she's been raised by the Addamses, who knows what kind of magic she's learned. Harry felt a prickle of unease. Dumbledore's letting her come to Hogwarts. She's going to be there tomorrow. You're meeting her tomorrow? Hermione gasped. Oh, Harry, how do you feel about that? Scared, Harry admitted. Excited. Angry that no one told me about her. Confused about why we were separated in the first place. He ran a hand through his already messy hair. I keep thinking about how different things could have been if we'd stayed together. If I'd had a sister growing up with me at the Dursleys. Ron patted his shoulder awkwardly. Well, you're meeting her now, right? Better late than never. Hermione was still studying the photo. She has your mother's bone structure, I think. But your father's coloring. She glanced at Harry. Do you think she looks like you now? I don't know. Harry moved to the window, looking out at the nighttime bustle of Diagon Alley. I keep trying to picture her, but all I see is this strange girl from my dreams. Dreams? Hermione perked up. You've been dreaming about her? 4 weeks now. I didn't know who she was until Lupin told me, but yeah. Pale girl with dark braids and intense eyes. Ron and Hermione exchanged meaningful looks. What? Harry demanded. It's just, magical twins often have connections, Hermione explained. Especially if they're both magical themselves. The Weasley twins always know what the other is thinking. It's bloody annoying, Ron grumbled. You can never prank just one of them. The point is, Hermione continued, if you've been dreaming about her, she might have been dreaming about you too. Maybe that's why she's coming to Hogwarts now. Harry hadn't considered that. The thought that his sister might have been searching for him, might want to know him as badly as he wanted to know her, kindled a warm hope in his chest. Guess I'll find out tomorrow, he said. London looked exactly as Wednesday had expected, grey, gloomy, perpetually on the verge of rain. Perfect. The Addams family garnered stares as they made their way through King's Cross Station. Wednesday's father wore his finest suit, her mother glided in her floor-length black gown, Uncle Fester beamed at everyone they passed, and Pugsley was attempting to determine the structural weak points of the station's architecture, muttering about load-bearing columns. Platform 9 3/4, Morticia read from the ticket a stern-looking witch named McGonagall had sent. How quaint. It's between platforms 9 and 10, Cara Mia, Gomez said, consulting the instructions. We simply walk through the barrier. Wednesday studied the very solid-looking brick wall between platforms. Walk through it. Allow me to demonstrate, my dear. Uncle Fester charged at the wall head first, causing several nearby muggles to gasp in alarm. Instead of the sickening crunch of skull-meeting brick, Fester vanished through the wall as if it were smoke. The muggles blinked, looked confused, then continued about their business. Fascinating, Wednesday murmured. A perception filter coupled with a dimensional doorway. One by one, the Addams family passed through the barrier, emerging onto a platform where a scarlet steam engine waited. Students in robes hurried about, loading trunks and cages of various animals. So conventional, Wednesday observed, eyeing the other students. Now, Wednesday, Morticia placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. Remember that different magical traditions have their own charm. And if anyone gives you trouble, pummel them. Pugsley added helpfully. Wednesday ignored him, her attention caught by a trio of students who had just emerged from the barrier behind them. A tall, gangly boy with flaming red hair. A girl with bushy brown hair and an armful of books. And, him. The boy from her visions. Skinnier in person, with glasses and clothes that didn't quite fit. But undeniably him. The lightning scar on his forehead stood out starkly against his pale skin. Their eyes met across the crowded platform, and Wednesday felt a jolt of something. Recognition. Connection. Power. Without conscious thought, she moved toward him, drawn like a moth to flame. He did the same, weaving between groups of students until they stood face to face. Green eyes met dark brown. Neither spoke. Around them, the noise of the platform seemed to fade. The air between them crackled with energy. Wednesday felt her hair lifting slightly, static electricity dancing along her braids. "You're Wednesday," the boy finally said, his voice just as she'd heard it in her dreams. "And you're Harry." A deafening crack split the air as every window on the Hogwarts Express shattered simultaneously. Students screamed, parents shouted, but Wednesday and Harry remained perfectly still, the center of a storm neither fully understood. "Well," Wednesday said drily, "I suppose that answers the question of whether we're related." A faint smile tugged at Harry's lips. "I suppose it does. Mr. Potter. Miss Addams." A crisp Scottish accent cut through the chaos. Professor McGonagall strode toward them, wand already moving to repair the damage. "If you would both kindly refrain from causing any more magical disturbances before we even reach Hogwarts." Wednesday sized up the stern-looking witch. "We didn't do it intentionally. I am well aware, Miss Addams, which is precisely why you are both to accompany me in the prefect's compartment where I can keep an eye on you." McGonagall's expression softened slightly as she looked between them. "I understand this is an emotional meeting, but perhaps you could continue it somewhere less public and less likely to cause property damage." Harry nodded, looking embarrassed. "Sorry, Professor." Wednesday didn't apologize. She was too busy studying her brother, cataloging the similarities and differences between them. Same high cheekbones. Same stubborn jaw. But where she was pale as moonlight, he had a touch of sun to his complexion. Where her eyes were nearly black, his were bright green like their mother's. "This is Ron and Hermione," Harry said, gesturing to his friends who had approached cautiously. "My best friends." "Charmed," Wednesday said flatly. Ron gulped audibly. Hermione offered a nervous smile. "And this is my family." Wednesday turned to the Addamses, who had followed her through the crowd. "Gomez and Morticia Addams. My parents." Harry's expression flickered at the word parents, but he extended his hand politely. "Nice to meet you." Gomez seized Harry's hand in both of his, shaking it vigorously. "My boy. At last we meet. I must say, you have your father's build. Too skinny. We must fatten you up." "You have your mother's eyes," Morticia observed quietly. She was a remarkable woman. Harry looked startled. "You knew our mother?" "We met only once, briefly," Morticia said. "When she brought Wednesday to us. She was very brave." A whistle blew, signaling 5 minutes until departure. "We should board," Hermione said anxiously. "We don't want to miss the train." McGonagall nodded. "Indeed. Mr. Potter, Miss Addams, this way please. Mr. and Mrs. Addams, Headmaster Dumbledore would like to speak with you at the castle. If you would be so kind as to apparate to Hogsmeade, someone will meet you there." Wednesday looked at her family. For the first time in her life, she felt uncertain about leaving them. Morticia seemed to understand. She bent and kissed Wednesday's forehead. We will see you at the castle, darling. Go meet your destiny. With that slightly ominous blessing, Wednesday allowed McGonagall to lead her and Harry onto the train, aware that every eye on the platform was following them. The prefect's compartment was larger and more comfortable than the regular ones, though currently empty of any actual prefects, who were busy patrolling the train. Harry sat awkwardly across from Wednesday, trying not to stare while also drinking in every detail of her appearance. His sister. His twin. The thought still felt unreal. McGonagall had left them alone after extracting promises that they would refrain from any magical outbursts and stay put until Hogwarts. So, Harry began, searching for something to say. You grew up in America? Yes. In a mansion on the outskirts of Jericho, New York. It's been in the Addams family for generations. And they're good to you. Wednesday studied him. They love me. In their way. It's not a conventional family, but then, I'm not a conventional person. Ron said your family practices some kind of special magic. Old magic. Before wands and incantations. Magic of blood and bone and intent. She tilted her head. Does that frighten you? Harry thought about it. No. I mean, I don't really know anything about it, but I've seen plenty of dark things already. Voldemort. The Chamber of Secrets. And if your family raised you, they can't be all bad. They're not dark. Not exactly. Darkness implies malice. The Addamses simply exist outside conventional morality. Wednesday leaned forward slightly. What about you? What was your childhood like? Harry hesitated. Not great. The Dursleys, my aunt and uncle, they don't like magic. Or me, really. They mistreated you. It wasn't a question, but Harry nodded anyway. Yet you survived. Grew stronger. I guess. I didn't have much choice. Wednesday's dark eyes gleamed. There's always a choice. You chose to endure rather than break. That's admirable. Coming from her, it felt like high praise. I've been dreaming about you, Harry admitted. 4 weeks now. Before I even knew you existed. As I've dreamed of you. Our magic reaching across the distance between us. Why do you think we were separated? And why is everyone freaking out about us being together now? Wednesday withdrew a folded piece of parchment from her pocket. According to this, there's a prophecy. About twins with dual magical heritage who could upset the balance of two worlds. Harry grimaced. Great. Another prophecy. I've had enough of those, thanks. You're familiar with prophecies? There's one about me and Voldemort. That's why he tried to kill me when I was a baby. Wednesday absorbed this information. Interesting. I wonder if they're connected. A knock at the compartment door interrupted them. A moment later, a shabby-looking man with prematurely gray hair entered. Harry, he greeted with a tired smile. I see you've met your sister. Professor Lupin, Harry replied. Yeah, we were just talking. Lupin turned to Wednesday, who was regarding him with open suspicion. Miss Addams. I'm Remus Lupin, the new Defense Against the Dark Arts professor. I was also a friend of your parents. Were you involved in separating us? Wednesday asked bluntly. Lupin blinked, taken aback by her directness. No. I had no idea Harry had a sister until recently. After your parents died, I was unwell. By the time I recovered, Harry had been placed with the Dursleys, and everyone believed you had died in the attack. Yet here I am. Yes. Here you are. Lupin sat beside Harry. I understand this is a lot to process for both of you. I'm here if you have questions about your parents. I knew them well. Did they have any enemies besides Voldemort? Wednesday asked. Someone who might have wanted to separate us specifically? Lupin considered this. Your parents made enemies during the war, certainly. They defied Voldemort 3 times. But as for enemies who would target you too specifically, I can't think of anyone. What about friends? Someone with access to them, to us as babies? There was Peter Pettigrew, but he was killed shortly after your parents. Sirius Black, who's recently escaped from Azkaban. And myself. Lupin's expression darkened. Black was their secret keeper. He betrayed them to Voldemort. Wednesday's eyes narrowed. Secret keeper. The Fidelius charm, Lupin explained. It's a complex spell that conceals a secret inside a living soul. Your parents were in hiding from Voldemort. Black was supposed to keep their location secret. Instead, he revealed it. So this Black could have been involved in my kidnapping as well, Wednesday mused. It's possible, Lupin admitted. Though I don't see what he would gain from it. The train lurched suddenly, brakes screeching as it slowed to a stop. Outside, darkness had fallen, though they couldn't be near Hogwarts yet. That's odd, Lupin said, standing. We shouldn't be stopping now. The lamps flickered and went out, plunging the compartment into darkness. Stay here, Lupin instructed, moving toward the door. I'll check what's happening. Before he could reach it, the compartment temperature plummeted. Frost crept across the windows. Harry's breath clouded in front of him. Something's coming, Wednesday whispered, her voice tinged with rare excitement. The compartment door slid open. A towering figure in a tattered black cloak hovered in the doorway. Its face was hidden in shadow, but a scabbed, grayish hand protruded from the cloak. Harry felt a terrible cold wash over him, deeper than his skin, into his very soul. Distant screaming filled his ears, a woman's voice, pleading. Beside him, Wednesday stood, facing the creature with keen interest rather than fear. Fascinating. A soul feeder. The creature turned its attention to her, seemingly confused by her reaction. It drifted closer. Wednesday, get back. Harry tried to pull her away, but she shrugged him off. It feeds on fear and happiness, she observed clinically. Lucky for me, I rarely experience either. The creature, Harry vaguely remembered hearing about Dementors, reached for Wednesday. Harry lunged forward, putting himself between them. The screaming in his head intensified. The woman was begging now, begging for mercy. Expecto Patronum. Lupin's voice rang out. A silvery light filled the compartment, driving the Dementor back. Harry felt himself falling, darkness closing in. The last thing he saw was Wednesday's face, watching him with something like concern as he collapsed. The Dementor retreated under Lupin's spell, but Wednesday barely noticed. Her attention was fixed on Harry, who had crumpled to the floor. What happened to him, she demanded, kneeling beside her unconscious brother. Dementors affect him particularly strongly, Lupin explained, pulling a chocolate bar from his pocket. Here, when he wakes up, make sure he eats this. It helps counteract the effects. Why did it affect him and not me? Lupin gave her an appraising look. Dementors feed on positive emotions, forcing us to relive our worst memories. Harry has, particularly traumatic memories of the night your parents died. He can hear Lily's screams. And I don't remember that night at all, Wednesday realized. I was already gone. That, and... Lupin hesitated. The Addams family is known for their unique relationship with dark creatures. Some say your family descends from them. Wednesday nodded. That explained why the Dementor had seemed confused by her presence. She turned her attention back to Harry, who was beginning to stir. What happened? He mumbled, struggling to sit up. You fainted, Wednesday informed him bluntly. After heroically and unnecessarily throwing yourself between me and the Dementor. Oh. Harry looked embarrassed. Did you hear screaming? No. Apparently I missed the worst part of our parents' murder. Harry winced at her directness, but nodded. I heard a woman screaming. Begging. I think it was our mom. Eat this. Wednesday handed him the chocolate. Professor Lupin says it helps. Harry took a bite and immediately looked better, color returning to his face. Thanks. The train was moving again, lights flickering back on. Outside their compartment, they could hear other students recovering from the Dementor's visit. Why are there Dementors on the train? Harry asked Lupin. They're searching for Sirius Black. The Ministry has sent them to guard Hogwarts. Lupin looked troubled. I need to check on the other students. Will you two be alright for a few minutes? Wednesday nodded, and Lupin left the compartment. You didn't need to protect me, she told Harry once they were alone. Yeah, well, that's what brothers do, isn't it? He gave her a weak smile. Even if they only found out they were brothers 2 weeks ago. Something warm and unfamiliar stirred in Wednesday's chest. I suppose it is. The rest of the journey passed quietly. Harry told her about Hogwarts, the 4 houses, the teachers, the castle itself. Wednesday shared a little about the Addams family and Nevermore Academy, where she'd spent the previous 2 years. By the time the train pulled into Hogsmeade Station, they had established a tentative rapport. Not quite sibling closeness, but a foundation they could build on. First years and transfers this way, a booming voice called as they disembarked. That's Hagrid, Harry explained. He takes the new students across the lake. You'll go with him, and I'll see you at the sorting ceremony. Wednesday nodded. And this sorting determines which house I'll be in? Yeah. The sorting hat looks into your mind and decides where you belong. And you're in Gryffindor, the house of the brave. Harry grinned. Maybe you'll join me there. Wednesday highly doubted it, but didn't say so. We'll see. As they parted ways, Harry to the carriages and Wednesday to the boats, neither noticed a figure watching them from the shadows. A tall man with a hooded cloak, his face hidden from view. He observed their separation with keen interest before slipping away into the darkness. The twins had been reunited. The prophecy was in motion. And Darius Crowley, unspeakable and guardian of the Department of Mystery's most dangerous secrets, had work to do. The great hall buzzed with excitement as students filed in for the start-of-term feast. Harry sat with Ron and Hermione at the Gryffindor table, craning his neck to spot Wednesday among the first years waiting to be sorted. There she is, Hermione nudged him, pointing to where Wednesday stood, looking distinctly unimpressed by the enchanted ceiling and floating candles. Blimey, she's intense, Ron muttered. No offense, mate, but your sister's a bit scary. She's just different, Harry defended, though privately he understood Ron's reaction. There was something unnervingly self-possessed about Wednesday, a darkness that went beyond her gothic appearance. At the staff table, Dumbledore sat in quiet conversation with Gomez and Morticia Addams, who looked wildly out of place among the Hogwarts professors. Uncle Fester was entertaining Professor Flitwick with what appeared to be a trick involving a light bulb in his mouth. Potter. Malfoy's sneering voice carried across the hall. Is it true? You've got a freak for a sister. Harry tensed, but before he could respond, the sorting ceremony began. Professor McGonagall called the first years forward one by one. After the last 11-year-old had been sorted, she cleared her throat. This year, we have the unusual circumstance of a transfer student joining us. Addams, Wednesday. Whispers erupted throughout the hall as Wednesday stepped forward. Harry found himself holding his breath as she sat on the stool and McGonagall placed the sorting hat on her head. 1 minute passed. Then 2. The hat, usually quick with its decisions, seemed to be having a lengthy debate. Wednesday's expression remained neutral, though occasionally her eyebrow twitched as if responding to something the hat was saying. Finally, after nearly 5 minutes, what Harry had heard called a hat stall, the brim of the hat opened wide. Slytherin. The Slytherin table erupted in cheers, though Harry noticed several students looking nervously at Wednesday as she made her way to join them. Harry couldn't hide his disappointment. Different houses meant different dormitories, different classes, different everything. How were they supposed to get to know each other if they were separated again? "It's not the end of the world," Hermione said, noticing his expression. "You can still spend time with her." "Yeah, but she'll be with Malfoy and his goons," Harry grumbled. "Something tells me your sister can handle Malfoy," Ron said, watching as the Slytherins made room for Wednesday at their table. Even from across the hall, Harry could see their wariness. Dumbledore stood, raising his hands for silence. "Welcome to another year at Hogwarts. Before we begin our feast, I have several announcements. First, as you may have noticed from their search of the Hogwarts Express, Hogwarts will be playing host to the Dementors of Azkaban, who are here on ministry business. They are stationed at every entrance to the grounds, and while they are with us, I must make it plain that nobody is to leave school without permission." The headmaster's expression was unusually serious. Dementors are not to be fooled by tricks or disguises, or even invisibility cloaks. It is not in the nature of a Dementor to understand pleading or excuses. I therefore warn each and every one of you to give them no reason to harm you. His gaze lingered on Harry for a moment before continuing. "On a happier note, I am pleased to welcome 2 new teachers to our ranks this year. First, Professor Lupin, who has kindly consented to fill the post of defense against the dark arts teacher." There was scattered applause. Those who had seen Lupin repel the Dementor on the train clapped loudly, Harry among them. "And second, I regret to inform you that Professor Kettleburn, our Care of Magical Creatures teacher, retired at the end of last year in order to enjoy more time with his remaining limbs. However, I am delighted to announce that his place will be filled by none other than Rubeus Hagrid, who has agreed to take on this teaching job in addition to his gamekeeping duties." Harry, Ron, and Hermione cheered wildly for their friend, who was blushing crimson beneath his wild beard. Finally, Dumbledore continued, "I would like to welcome some special guests to Hogwarts. Mr. and Mrs. Addams will be staying with us for a time, consulting on some unique magical research. I trust you will all make them feel welcome." Gomez Addams leapt to his feet, bowing flamboyantly to the students. "Enchanted to be here. Simply enchanted. Such a magnificent castle. The gargoyles are exquisite." Morticia placed a restraining hand on her husband's arm, inclining her head gracefully to the students. Several boys at the Hufflepuff table sighed dreamily at the elegant witch. "And now," Dumbledore clapped his hands, "let the feast begin." The golden plates filled with food, and the hall erupted in chatter. Harry found his appetite diminished, his gaze continuously drifting to the Slytherin table where Wednesday sat in silence, observing her new housemates rather than joining their conversations. As if sensing his attention, she looked up, meeting his eyes across the hall. A silent understanding passed between them. This wasn't over. Whatever force had separated them as babies couldn't keep them apart now. Harry nodded slightly, and Wednesday returned the gesture before turning back to her untouched plate. "Mr. Potter." Harry jumped, finding Professor McGonagall standing behind him. "Yes, Professor. The headmaster would like to see you in his office after the feast. The password is, Fizzing Whiz-Bees. Is Wednesday coming too?" "Miss Addams will be there, yes." McGonagall's lips thinned. "I suggest you finish your dinner. It may be a long night." With that ominous statement, she swept away, leaving Harry to wonder what exactly Dumbledore wanted to discuss. Whatever it was, he had a feeling it had to do with the prophecy Wednesday had mentioned, and why they had been separated in the first place. The truth was finally coming out. Harry just hoped it was something he was ready to hear. Dumbledore's office was crowded. The headmaster himself sat behind his desk, fingers steepled. Professors McGonagall, Snape, and Lupin stood to one side. Gomez and Morticia Addams occupied 2 plush chairs near the fireplace. And in the center, facing Dumbledore, stood Harry and Wednesday. "I believe," Dumbledore began, that you both deserve an explanation. About why we were separated? Harry asked. Yeah, that would be nice. Wednesday simply fixed the headmaster with her penetrating stare, waiting. The night your parents were killed, Dumbledore began, only Harry was found in the ruins of the cottage. We believed Wednesday had been killed in the attack, her body perhaps destroyed by the magical backlash that occurred when the killing curse rebounded from Harry. But that wasn't true, Harry said. She was taken to America. Yes. It wasn't until several years later that I received intelligence suggesting Wednesday might have survived. By then, she was settled with the Addams family, apparently safe and well cared for. You knew. Harry couldn't keep the accusation from his voice. You knew I had a sister who was alive, and you never told me. I suspected, Dumbledore corrected gently. I did not know for certain until much more recently, when Wednesday's magical signature began to register on certain instruments I keep. Instruments tied to you, Harry, and to the protection your mother left in your blood. Why were we separated in the first place? Wednesday asked, her voice cool. The letter that came with me mentioned a prophecy. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose. A letter? May I see it? Wednesday pulled the yellowed parchment from her pocket and handed it to the headmaster, who read it with growing concern. This is troubling, he murmured. I did not send this letter, nor did I arrange for Wednesday's removal from Godric's Hollow. Then who did? Harry demanded. That is the question, isn't it? Dumbledore looked thoughtfully at the twins. There is indeed a prophecy concerning you both. It was made shortly before your birth, by the same seer who prophesied Harry's confrontation with Voldemort. Professor Trelawney. Harry guessed, remembering what Lupin had told him. Indeed. The prophecy speaks of twins born as the seventh month dies, one marked by darkness, one by light. Together, they would wield magic of two worlds, with the power to overthrow the established order. What exactly does that mean? Harry asked. Prophecies are notoriously difficult to interpret, Dumbledore admitted. But it suggests that together, you two possess a unique magical potential, Harry with his connection to Voldemort and Wednesday with her Addams heritage. The Addams magic is primal, Morticia spoke for the first time. It draws from sources most modern wizards have forgotten or abandoned. Blood magic. Soul magic. The old ways. Combined with Harry's particular gifts, the potential is indeed formidable, Dumbledore agreed. Someone clearly believed you would be safer separated until you were older and better able to control your combined power. You mean until we could be controlled, Wednesday observed coldly. Dumbledore didn't deny it. There are those who fear power they do not understand. So who took Wednesday? Who knew about the prophecy? Harry pressed. Only a handful of people knew of your twin birth, McGonagall interjected. Your parents, of course. Sirius Black, your godfather. Remus. Myself. Albus. A healer at St. Mungo's who attended the birth. And Peter Pettigrew, Lupin added quietly. He visited James and Lily the day after you were born. As for who knew of the prophecy, Dumbledore continued, officially, only myself and the keeper of the Hall of Prophecies in the Department of Mysteries. Unofficially. Voldemort knew part of it, enough to target your family. And where there are secrets, there are often those who make it their business to uncover them. The unspeakables, Snape spoke for the first time, his dark eyes fixed on Wednesday with an expression Harry couldn't read. The Department of Mysteries employs wizards who specialize in the most arcane branches of magic. Prophecies. Time. Death. The mind. You believe someone from the Department of Mysteries took Wednesday? Harry asked. It would explain how they knew about the prophecy, Lupin mused. And how they were able to remove a child from a house under the Fidelius charm. The unspeakables have ways of moving that most wizards can't detect. Why give her to us, specifically? Gomez asked, twirling his mustache thoughtfully. The Addams family is hardly low profile. Perhaps because your family exists outside traditional wizarding governance, Dumbledore suggested. Beyond the reach of both the Ministry and Voldemort's followers. And because your magic is compatible with what Wednesday might naturally develop. So what happens now? Harry looked between Dumbledore and the Addamses. Wednesday's here at Hogwarts. We're together. Does that mean the prophecy is going to come true? Prophecies aren't inevitable, Harry, Dumbledore said gently. They're possibilities. Paths that may be taken. The choices remain yours. And what about the person who separated us? Are they just going to leave us alone now? That, Dumbledore's blue eyes hardened slightly, is what concerns me. If someone went to such lengths to keep you apart, they may not be pleased that you've been reunited. Let them come, Wednesday said, a faint smile playing at her lips. I've been looking for a worthy project this semester. Harry couldn't help but grin at her bloodthirsty tone. Different as they were, he was beginning to see that they shared certain traits, a disregard for rules, a willingness to face danger, and a stubborn determination that would likely give their professors headaches. For now, Dumbledore said, you will both attend classes as normal. Miss Addams will join the third-year Slytherins, though she may need some additional tutoring to catch up on wand work, as I understand the Addams family practices magic differently. Wednesday is a quick study, Morticia assured him. And the wand that chose her seems quite eager to work with her. Harry remembered his own experience at Ollivander's. You got your wand today? Wednesday nodded. Blackthorn and thestral hair. 13 inches. Ollivander seemed quite disturbed by it. Thestral hair is an unusual core, Lupin commented. Associated with those who have a unique relationship with death. How fitting, Wednesday said with satisfaction. In addition to your regular classes, Dumbledore continued, I believe it would be beneficial for you both to have private lessons in controlling and understanding your combined magic. The incident on the platform demonstrates that your magical signatures interact, dramatically. Who would teach such lessons? McGonagall asked. This is hardly standard curriculum, Albus. I believe Mr. and Mrs. Addams, along with Professor Lupin, would be ideal instructors. They bring different magical perspectives that might help the twins integrate their abilities. Harry glanced at the Addamses. The thought of learning their type of magic was both intriguing and slightly terrifying. One more thing, Dumbledore's expression grew grave. I must ask you both to be cautious. Sirius Black remains at large, and we have reason to believe he may be targeting Harry. And if our suspicions about an unspeakable involvement in your separation are correct, there may be others watching you as well. We can take care of ourselves, Harry said firmly. Indeed you can, Dumbledore agreed. But even the strongest wizards can be caught unawares. Promise me you will not go looking for trouble. Harry and Wednesday exchanged glances. Define trouble, Wednesday said. Dumbledore sighed, but there was a twinkle in his eye. I see the family resemblance extends beyond the physical. The meeting concluded shortly after, with arrangements made for the twins to meet 3 evenings a week for their special training. As they left the office, Harry found himself walking beside Wednesday down the spiral staircase. So, he said awkwardly, Slytherin, huh? The hat considered Ravenclaw, she replied. But decided my particular ambitions were better suited to Slytherin. Ambitions? To master death. To understand the darkest magic. To make anyone who crosses me regret it deeply. She gave him a sidelong glance. The usual. Harry laughed despite himself. You know, the hat wanted to put me in Slytherin too. I talked it out of it. Why? I'd met Malfoy. Didn't want to be in his house. Harry paused. But sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice. They reached the bottom of the stairs, where they would need to head in opposite directions, Harry to Gryffindor Tower, Wednesday to the Slytherin dungeons. Perhaps, Wednesday said thoughtfully, there is a reason we ended up in different houses. Two perspectives. Two approaches to magic. Two sides of the same coin. Maybe, Harry agreed. But we're still, you know. Family. Wednesday considered this. Family is more than blood. The Addamses taught me that. But blood has power too. She extended her hand, palm up. A drop of blood, freely given, creates a bond that magic respects. You want my blood? Just a drop. It will allow us to sense each other. To know if the other is in danger. Harry hesitated only briefly before fishing a safety pin from the hem of his robe. He pricked his finger and let a drop of blood fall into Wednesday's palm. She did the same, their blood mingling. For a moment, Harry felt a strange warmth spread up his arm, a connection forming between them. Blood of my blood, Wednesday murmured. Now, no matter what houses divide us or what forces try to separate us, we'll find each other. Harry nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. See you tomorrow, then. Tomorrow, Wednesday agreed. Sleep well, brother. And if you dream of me, remember, I'm dreaming of you too. With that slightly unsettling farewell, she turned and headed toward the dungeons, her black robes swirling behind her. Harry watched her go, rubbing his pricked finger absently. He had a sister. A strange, unsettling, possibly slightly homicidal sister, but a sister nonetheless. After 12 years alone, believing he had no family besides the Dursleys, the knowledge filled a void he hadn't fully realized was there. Whatever prophecy hung over their heads, whatever dangers lurked in their future, Harry knew one thing for certain: he wasn't alone anymore. And he would do whatever it took to keep it that way. Chapter 2, Blood and Magic news traveled fast at Hogwarts. By breakfast the next morning, everyone knew, Harry Potter had a twin sister, she was a Slytherin, and something very weird had happened when they'd met on platform 9 3/4. Harry slid into his seat at the Gryffindor table, ignoring the not-so-subtle whispers following him. Fred and George Weasley immediately flanked him like bodyguards. Harry. Our favorite almost twin. Fred grinned. Come to ask for twin advice, have you? George added. Rule 1, always blame the other one. Harry managed a smile. Thanks, but I think we're still figuring things out. Seriously though, Fred leaned closer, is it true she made all the windows on the Hogwarts Express explode just by looking at you? It wasn't intentional, Harry muttered, scanning the Slytherin table. Wednesday sat alone at the end, meticulously dissecting a piece of toast while reading a leather-bound book that definitely wasn't on the Hogwarts curriculum. Even the other Slytherins kept their distance. Blimey, Ron said, following Harry's gaze. She's even got Malfoy scared. Hermione elbowed him. Don't be ridiculous. She's just new. New. Hermione, she threatened to hex Pansy Parkinson's eyebrows off when Pansy asked if she was wearing a Halloween costume. In September. Harry choked on his pumpkin juice. She did what? It's just a rumor, Hermione said quickly. I'm sure she's just settling in. Professor McGonagall moved along the table, distributing schedules. When she reached Harry, she handed him 2 pieces of parchment. Your schedule, Potter, and a note regarding your special lessons. She lowered her voice. The headmaster also suggests you might help Miss Addams find her way around the castle. Houses aside, she is your sister. Harry nodded, glancing again at Wednesday. Their eyes met across the hall, and he felt a faint tingle in his pricked finger from last night. Blood magic. It really worked. He finished breakfast quickly and headed toward the Slytherin table, ignoring the surprised looks. Wednesday closed her book as he approached. Morning, Harry said. I thought you might want someone to show you around before classes. The castle has a logical layout, Wednesday replied. I've already memorized my route to the dungeons, transfiguration, charms, and the library. Oh. Right. Harry shifted awkwardly. Wednesday studied him for a moment. But I suppose local knowledge has its advantages. She gathered her things and stood, drawing stares from the entire Slytherin table. Malfoy looked like he wanted to say something but thought better of it when Wednesday's dark eyes briefly met his. They walked out of the great hall together, dozens of eyes following them. "Is it always like this for you?" Wednesday asked. "People staring?" "Pretty much," Harry admitted. "You get used to it." "I doubt that." Harry's schedule showed they shared potions, care of magical creatures, and defense against the dark arts. "Looks like we have potions together first period." "With Professor Snape." "Your head of house," Harry added. "He hates me, by the way." "Why?" "He hated our father." "Carries grudges." Wednesday considered this. "Interesting. A man after my own heart." They descended to the dungeons, the corridors growing colder and darker. Wednesday seemed to relax in the gloom, her posture becoming less rigid. "You like it down here," Harry observed. "The Addams mansion has extensive catacombs. I spent much of my childhood exploring them." "What was that like? Growing up with the Addamses?" Wednesday's lips curved slightly. "Educational. Uncle Fester taught me to make explosives when I was 6. Grandmama showed me which mushrooms cause hallucinations versus painful death. Mother trained me in the art of seance." Harry blinked. "And that was normal for you?" "What's normal? The Dursleys making you sleep in a cupboard?" Harry flinched. "How did you?" "Blood tells blood," Wednesday tapped her finger where she'd pricked it last night. "The connection works both ways. I see fragments of your memories. You likely see mine." Harry realized she was right. Last night, he'd dreamed of a vast, gloomy mansion, a disembodied hand scuttling across the floor, a pale girl practicing with a crossbow in a graveyard. He hadn't recognized it as Wednesday's memories until now. They reached the potions classroom. Snape wasn't there yet, but most of the Slytherins and Gryffindors were already seated, watching them with undisguised curiosity. "Potter," Malfoy drawled. "Lost your way to Gryffindor Tower?" "Just making sure my sister found the classroom," Harry replied coolly. "Sister," Malfoy smirked. "Hard to believe the famous Harry Potter and Wednesday Addams share blood. Though I suppose the Dark Lord did scramble your parents pretty thoroughly." Before Harry could react, Wednesday stepped forward. Her wand appeared in her hand so quickly it seemed to materialize. "Draco Malfoy," she said, her voice deceptively soft. "Heir to a fortune built on political bribery and dark artifacts." "How predictable." Malfoy's smirk faltered. "You don't know anything about my family." "Don't I?" "The Addamses and Malfoys crossed paths in 1723. Your ancestor Septimus tried to cheat mine in a deal involving a cursed amulet." Wednesday's smile wouldn't have looked out of place on a shark. "Great-grandfather Mortimer turned him into a newt for a month. I have his diary. The transformation was excruciating." The color drained from Malfoy's face. Around them, students from both houses watched in fascinated silence. "Now," Wednesday continued, "shall we discuss your opinions on our parents, or would you prefer to maintain all your current appendages? Is there a problem here?" Snape's cold voice cut through the tension. He swept into the room, black robes billowing, eyes narrowing as he took in the scene. Wednesday tucked her wand away smoothly. "Not at all, Professor. Draco was just welcoming me to Slytherin." Snape's gaze shifted to Harry. "Potter. This is not your classroom for another 3 minutes. 5 points from Gryffindor for being where you don't belong." Harry opened his mouth to protest, but Wednesday caught his eye and gave a slight shake of her head. "Right. Don't antagonize her head of house." "See you after class," Harry muttered, turning to leave. "Mr. Potter." Snape's voice stopped him at the door. "Your sister may be in my house, but make no mistake, I will be watching both of you very closely." Harry nodded stiffly and left, wondering if that was a threat or a promise of protection. With Snape, it was impossible to tell. Wednesday found potions fascinating. Not the boring textbook instructions, but the possibilities that lay beneath the surface. With small adjustments, healing potions became poisons. Calming drafts became hallucinogens. Every concoction was just steps away from something darker, more dangerous. Professor Snape clearly knew this too. He taught with precision and severity, his eyes constantly scanning for mistakes. When he reached Wednesday's cauldron, he paused. "Miss Addams. You've deviated from the instructions." "Yes." Snape raised an eyebrow at her lack of explanation or apology. "And why, precisely, did you add powdered moonstone when the recipe clearly calls for crushed?" "Powdering increases the surface area, allowing for more efficient infusion. The resulting potion is twice as potent with half the side effects." Snape studied her shrewdly. "That adjustment is not taught until 6th year. I read ahead." "Indeed." Snape glanced at her parchment, covered with annotations. 5 points to Slytherin for initiative. Though in future, Miss Addams, I suggest you master the standard method before attempting improvements." Wednesday nodded, hiding her surprise at the almost compliment. After class, she found Harry waiting in the corridor with his friends, Ron and Hermione. "How was your first class?" Hermione asked politely. "Rudimentary," Wednesday replied. "Though Professor Snape seems competent." Ron gaped at her. "Competent? He's a nightmare. He favors Slytherins," Harry explained. "Always has. Favoritism is irrelevant. Knowledge is what matters." Wednesday tilted her head. "What's our next class?" "Care of magical creatures," Harry consulted his schedule. "With Hagrid." They headed across the grounds toward Hagrid's hut, Ron and Hermione walking slightly ahead while Harry and Wednesday followed. "Your friends don't know what to make of me," Wednesday observed. "They're just getting used to the idea," Harry said. "It's a lot to take in." "For everyone." Wednesday watched a group of students scatter as they approached. "Word of our connection is spreading quickly. Are they always this afraid of anyone different?" "Magical twins are rare," Harry said. "Especially ones who cause magical explosions just by meeting. They should be afraid." Wednesday's eyes gleamed. "We don't yet know what we're capable of." Care of magical creatures turned out to be an interesting first lesson. Hagrid, beaming with pride in his new teaching role, introduced them to hippogriffs, half-eagle, half-horse creatures with sharp beaks and deadly talons. "Now, who wants to come and say hello?" Hagrid asked after explaining how to approach them. Most students stepped back. Harry, feeling bad for Hagrid, reluctantly raised his hand. "Good man, Harry." Hagrid beamed. "Right then, let's see how you get on with Buckbeak." Harry approached the steel-grey hippogriff cautiously, bowing as instructed. After a tense moment, Buckbeak bent his scaly knees in a bow of his own. "Well done, Harry." Hagrid exclaimed. "Right, you can touch him now." Harry patted the creature's beak nervously. To his surprise, Buckbeak leaned into the touch like a giant, dangerous cat. "I reckon he might let ye ride him," Hagrid said suddenly. Before Harry could protest, Hagrid lifted him onto Buckbeak's back. With a slap to the hippogriff's hindquarters, they were off, soaring into the sky. The flight was terrifying and exhilarating. Buckbeak's powerful wings carried them over the castle and the lake before circling back to the paddock where the class waited. As they landed, Harry noticed Wednesday watching him with an unreadable expression. "That was impressive," she said when he rejoined the group. "You have a natural affinity with creatures." "I got lucky," Harry shrugged. "Want to try?" For the first time, Wednesday looked uncertain. "I don't think that's wise. Animals tend to react badly to me." "Why?" "Mother says it's the aura of death all Addamses carry." She said this matter-of-factly, as though discussing the weather. Before Harry could respond, a commotion broke out across the paddock. Malfoy had approached Buckbeak without proper respect, and the hippogriff reared up, slashing with its talons. "I'm dying!" Malfoy yelled, clutching his arm where blood blossomed on his robes. "It's killed me." "You're not dying," Hagrid said, looking pale. "Someone help me, gotta get him outta here." Hagrid scooped up Malfoy and rushed toward the castle. The class dissolved into chaos, Slytherins shouting accusations, Gryffindors defending Hagrid. "He'll be fired for this," Hermione worried. It wasn't Hagrid's fault, but with Malfoy's father having so much influence, the boy was an idiot, Wednesday interrupted. Natural selection would have eliminated him in any reasonable ecosystem. Ron snorted with surprised laughter. "I think I'm starting to like your sister, Harry." "Hagrid still needs help," Harry insisted. "If Malfoy's father gets involved, leave Lucius Malfoy to me," Wednesday said. "The Addams family has dealt with his type before." Her confident tone sent a slight chill down Harry's spine. He sometimes forgot that despite looking his age, Wednesday had been raised by a family with centuries of dealing with dangerous people and creatures. Class was dismissed early, and they trudged back toward the castle, Harry and his friends filling Wednesday in on their previous encounters with the Malfoys. "So he tried to kill multiple students with a basilisk, and faced no consequences?" Wednesday asked, referring to their tale of the Chamber of Secrets. "We couldn't prove it was him specifically," Hermione explained. "His father planted the diary, but, irrelevant. Family responsibility is absolute." Wednesday's expression darkened. "An attack on one's enemies should be direct and personal. Proxies are for cowards." Harry couldn't exactly disagree, but Hermione looked scandalized. "You can't just attack people for revenge." "Why not?" "It's tradition. Because it's against school rules. And the law." Wednesday raised an eyebrow. "And that stops you?" "The girl who brewed Polyjuice potion illegally at 12. Hermione's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Harry stifled a laugh. "How did you know about that?" Ron demanded. "Harry's memories," Wednesday tapped her temple. "I see fragments when he dreams. Quite the adventurous group, aren't you?" They reached the castle entrance, where Professor Lupin waited, looking tired but alert. "Ah, just who I was looking for," he greeted them. "Harry, Wednesday, your first special lesson is scheduled for this evening. 8 o'clock in the room of requirement." "The what?" Harry asked. "7th floor corridor, opposite the tapestry of Barnabas the Barmy," Lupin explained. "Walk past the wall 3 times, thinking about what you need, in this case, a place to practice combined magic safely." "Combined magic?" Hermione echoed, curiosity overcoming her lingering discomfort with Wednesday. "What exactly will you be teaching them, Professor?" "That remains to be seen," Lupin said cryptically. "We're in somewhat uncharted territory. But tonight's focus will be on understanding the nature of their connected magic." He nodded to the twins. 8 o'clock. Don't be late." As Lupin walked away, Harry turned to Wednesday. "Do you know anything about combined magic?" "Only theory. The Addams grimoire mentions blood-linked spellcasting, usually between twins or parent and child. Supposedly, the effects are unpredictable." "Unpredictable how?" Wednesday's lips curved in that not-quite smile. "Magnificently catastrophic, if the stories are true. The last Addams twins accidentally turned their entire village to stone while trying to cure a neighbor's toothache." Ron took a step back. "You're joking, right?" "The Addams family rarely jokes about magic gone wrong," Wednesday replied solemnly. "We simply add it to the family album." The rest of the day passed in a blur of classes and whispers. By dinner, the story of the Potter twins had evolved into wild speculation. Harry overheard everything from claims they could communicate telepathically to rumors that Wednesday had been raised by vampires. Just ignore them, Hermione advised as a group of first-years scattered at Harry's approach. They'll find something else to gossip about soon. Harry nodded absently, watching Wednesday enter the Great Hall alone. The Slytherins still kept their distance, though he noticed Malfoy was absent, presumably still in the hospital wing. Gomez and Morticia Addams sat at the staff table, engaged in what looked like a passionate discussion with Professor Flitwick. Occasionally, Gomez would leap to his feet, gesturing wildly, causing several students to duck reflexively. "Your sister's family is intense," Ron observed, following Harry's gaze. "They seem nice enough," Harry shrugged. "Just different." "Different is an understatement," Hermione muttered. "I was in the library earlier, and Mrs. Addams was there researching British magical law. She asked Madame Pants for books on legally ambiguous curses and heritage-based blood wards. I think she's planning something." Harry wasn't surprised. The Addamses clearly took family seriously, and Wednesday was still legally their daughter, blood relation to Harry notwithstanding. At 8 o'clock sharp, Harry met Wednesday outside the room of requirement. They watched in fascination as the blank wall transformed into an ornate door after their third pass. "Impressive spatial manipulation," Wednesday murmured. "The castle is more sentient than it appears." They entered a large, circular room with a high ceiling. The stone walls were lined with protective runes, and the floor featured a complex circular pattern inlaid with silver. Windows high above showed the night sky, though Harry suspected they weren't real windows at all. Lupin and the Addamses waited in the center of the room. Gomez, for once, looked serious, his usual manic energy contained. "Welcome," Lupin greeted them. "Before we begin, I want to emphasize that what we're doing here is experimental. There are very few documented cases of magical twins with your unique combination of heritages. What he means," Morticia added in her velvet voice, "is that you represent something unprecedented, the merging of conventional wizarding power with the ancient magic of the Addams line. Tonight's goal is simple," Lupin continued. "We need to understand how your magics interact. The incident on platform 9 3/4 suggests that proximity alone can cause magical discharge. We'll start with something basic." Gomez pulled out 2 silver candlesticks, placing them several feet apart. "Lighting candles. Harry, you'll use the standard incantation, Incendio," Harry supplied. "Exactly. Wednesday, you'll use the Addams invocation." Wednesday nodded. "Flammare vitae, consumere mort." "Together, on my count," Lupin instructed. 1, 2, 3. Incendio. Harry pointed his wand. "Flammare vitae, consumere mort," Wednesday intoned simultaneously. The candles didn't simply light, they erupted into pillars of blue-black flame that twisted together like living tendrils, forming a fiery archway between them. The temperature in the room plummeted, their breath clouding despite the flames. "Fascinating," Morticia murmured. "Cold fire. The convergence creates a paradox." Lupin cautiously approached the flames. "These aren't ordinary, Harry," Wednesday, "try to extinguish them." Harry attempted finite incantatem while Wednesday made a cutting gesture, speaking words in what sounded like Latin. The flames flickered but remained. "Together," Gomez suggested. "Same pattern as before." They tried again, combining Harry's finite with Wednesday's incantation. This time, the flames vanished with a sound like a thunderclap, leaving behind 2 puddles of molten silver where the candlesticks had been. "Well," Lupin looked slightly pale. "That was certainly informative." They tried several more basic spells, levitation, summoning, shield charms. Each time, the combined effect was dramatically amplified and often altered in unexpected ways. Their summoning charms didn't just bring objects flying across the room, they temporarily vanished and rematerialized. Their shield charms created barriers that distorted light and sound. "Your magics are complementary," Morticia explained as they paused to rest. "Harry, your magic flows outward, projecting intent. Wednesday, yours draws inward, bending reality around your will. Together, you create a circuit. Is that why we were separated? Harry asked, wiping sweat from his forehead. Because together we're too powerful. Lupin and the Addamses exchanged glances. It's likely part of the reason, Lupin admitted. Though I suspect there's more to it. The prophecy Dumbledore mentioned. A loud bang interrupted him as the door flew open. Professor McGonagall stood there, looking uncharacteristically flustered. Remus. Thank goodness I found you. There's been an incident. Sirius Black has been sighted in the castle. Harry felt a cold shock run through him. Black? Here. The fat lady's portrait has been slashed, McGonagall continued. All students are being gathered in the Great Hall while the teachers search the castle. We'll be right there, Minerva, Lupin assured her. He turned to the twins. I'm afraid we'll have to continue this another time. Why would Black attack the Gryffindor entrance? Wednesday asked, her dark eyes calculating. If he's after Harry, he must know the password system. Why draw attention with vandalism? McGonagall pressed her lips together. That is not for you to worry about, Miss Addams. Now come along, all of you. They followed McGonagall to the Great Hall, which was already filling with confused students in pajamas and dressing gowns. The house tables had been pushed aside, and hundreds of purple sleeping bags covered the floor. The teachers and I need to conduct a thorough search of the castle, Dumbledore announced as the last students arrived. Prefects, guard the entrances. Head boy and girl, maintain order. Any disturbance should be reported immediately via the ghosts. He paused, surveying the hall. Oh, yes, you'll be sleeping here tonight. We should have this sorted by morning. As Dumbledore left, the hall erupted in excited whispers. Percy Weasley, looking self-important, began directing students to sleeping bags. Everyone into their sleeping bags, he called. Come on now, no more talking. Harry, Ron, and Hermione grabbed sleeping bags and dragged them to a corner. Wednesday followed, ignoring the shocked looks from both Gryffindors and Slytherins. Do you think Black's still in the castle? Hermione whispered. Dumbledore thinks he might be, Ron replied, looking nervously over his shoulder. It's lucky he picked tonight, Hermione said. With everyone at the feast, the tower was empty. Except the feast ended hours ago, Wednesday pointed out. Why attack now, when students would be in the tower? Harry frowned, considering this. Maybe he lost track of time. Azkaban messes with your mind, doesn't it? Or he's not after what everyone assumes, Wednesday suggested. What do you mean? Ron asked. Consider, Black escapes from an inescapable prison, somehow enters an allegedly secure castle, then attacks an empty portrait instead of any actual target. Wednesday's voice was coolly analytical. Either he's incompetent, or his objective isn't what it appears. Enough talking. Percy hissed, patrolling nearby. Lights out in 5 minutes. Wednesday gave Percy a look that made him falter mid-stride. Family discussion. Private. Percy opened his mouth to object, then thought better of it and moved away. Black is supposedly after Harry, Wednesday continued quietly. But what if he's after something else entirely? Something connected to both of us? Like what? Harry asked. Information. About the prophecy. About why we were separated. Harry considered this. You think Black was involved in taking you to America? It's a possibility. He was close to our parents. Had access to us as babies. But he betrayed them to Voldemort, Hermione whispered. Why save you and not them? Wednesday's eyes gleamed in the candlelight. Perhaps his betrayal wasn't what it seemed either. The lights are going out now. Percy called. Everyone in their sleeping bags and no more talking. The candles extinguished, plunging the hall into darkness except for the ghostly silver light of the stars shining from the enchanted ceiling. Harry lay in his sleeping bag, mind racing with Wednesday's theory. What if they'd all misunderstood Sirius Black's motives? What if his escape was somehow connected to the twins' reunion? Beside him, Wednesday lay perfectly still, her eyes open and watchful in the darkness. Unlike the other students whispering excitedly around them, she seemed totally at ease with the idea of a murderer stalking the castle. "You're not afraid of Black," Harry observed quietly. "I grew up with Thing, a disembodied hand that moves of its own accord, Lurch, a 7-foot-tall undead butler, and Grandmama, who poisons dinner guests for fun," Wednesday replied. "A wizard with a grudge doesn't crack my top 10 concerns." Despite everything, Harry smiled. Having a fearless, slightly homicidal sister was starting to seem like an advantage. The castle was searched thoroughly, but Sirius Black had vanished. Over the next few days, security tightened. The fat lady's portrait was replaced temporarily by Sir Cadogan, a ridiculous knight who changed the password twice a day and challenged students to duels. Teachers escorted students between classes, and Filch boarded up every crack and crevice that might allow entry. Despite the lockdown, Harry and Wednesday continued their special lessons, now with added security measures. Their magical connection grew stronger with each session, allowing them to perform increasingly complex combined spells. "The key is intention," Morticia explained during their third lesson. "Your individual spells matter less than your shared purpose. Magic responds to will more than words." They practiced channeling power through each other, creating effects neither could achieve alone. Harry found he could temporarily access Wednesday's affinity for darker magic, while she gained his precision with directed spells. Outside of lessons, they spent what time they could together, ignoring the house boundaries that typically kept Slytherins and Gryffindors apart. Wednesday occasionally joined Harry, Ron and Hermione in the library, contributing her unique perspective to their homework, particularly defense against the dark arts, where her encyclopedic knowledge of dark creatures often surpassed the textbooks. "The book says Dementors can only be repelled by the Patronus charm," Hermione said one evening, working on an essay for Lupin. "But is there any other defense?" "Several," Wednesday replied without looking up from her own work. Addams' family records document at least 3 alternatives: blood sacrifice, soul shielding, and psychic aversion. "Sounds dark," Ron muttered. "Only blood sacrifice," Wednesday corrected. "The others merely require a different type of mental discipline than your ministry-approved methods." "Could you teach us?" Harry asked. After his reaction to the Dementor on the train, he was eager for any protection he could get. Wednesday considered him. "Perhaps. Though the techniques were developed for those with Addams' blood. I'm not sure how effective they'd be for others." "We're twins," Harry pointed out. "I have Addams' blood too, apparently." "A distant connection, diluted by generations," Wednesday corrected. "Mother says our great-great-grandmother was an Addams who married into the Evans line. That's why Mother recognized our mother when she brought me to them." This revelation startled Harry. "So our mum knew about the Addams connection? She chose your family specifically?" "It appears so. Though why she trusted them with me, rather than keeping us together." Wednesday left the question hanging. It was the mystery that continued to haunt them. Why had Lily Potter, in her final days, arranged for Wednesday to be taken to America? Had she known about the prophecy? About the danger their combined magic might pose? Their questions only multiplied the following week when Professor Lupin was too ill to teach, and Snape substituted for defense against the dark arts. Ignoring the assigned lesson plan, Snape turned to the chapter on werewolves, material clearly intended for later in the year. "Which of you can tell me how to distinguish between the werewolf and the true wolf?" Snape asked silkily. Hermione's hand shot up, as did Wednesday's. Snape pointed to Wednesday. "The werewolf differs in 5 key aspects," she began clinically. "Snout shape, tail position, pupil dilation, hunting patterns, and response to silver. Most notably, a werewolf retains elements of human intelligence even in wolf form, making it far more dangerous than a natural predator. They hunt with purpose, not merely instinct. Correct, Miss Addams. 5 points to Slytherin. Snape's eyes glittered. And can anyone tell me why this information might be particularly relevant at present? An uncomfortable silence fell over the classroom. Wednesday's eyes narrowed fractionally, then widened in understanding. Professor Lupin, she said softly. His absences coincide with the full moon. Harry felt a jolt of shock. Lupin, a werewolf? It seemed impossible, yet. I did not ask you to share unfounded speculation, Miss Addams, Snape said, though his tone suggested he was pleased by her deduction. However, it would be prudent to consider why certain professors might be unavailable at predictable intervals. After class, Harry cornered Wednesday in the corridor. You don't really think Lupin's a werewolf, do you? The evidence is compelling, she replied. Chronic illness coinciding with lunar cycles. Scars consistent with self-inflicted wounds. His boggart taking the form of a full moon. His boggart was a moon. According to the Slytherin third years who had him first. Not an orb, specifically, but a bright full moon. Harry frowned. If Lupin was a werewolf, why had Dumbledore hired him? And why was Snape trying to expose his secret? We should ask him directly, Wednesday suggested, reading his expression. What? We can't just accuse a professor of being a werewolf. Why not? If he is one, he already knows. If he isn't, no harm done. Harry shook his head. That's not how it works. Werewolves are, people are prejudiced against them. If word got out, he could lose his job. Interesting, Wednesday tilted her head. You're protective of him. You like him. He was friends with our parents, Harry said defensively. And he's a good teacher. I don't disagree. His condition doesn't diminish his competence. Wednesday straightened her already perfect posture. We'll keep his secret, then. Harry blinked, surprised by her easy agreement. Just like that. Family protects its own. Lupin was close to our parents. That makes him practically family. She said this matter-of-factly, as if it were obvious. Besides, the Addamses have always had an appreciation for misunderstood creatures. Cousin Vlad was a vampire, after all. Harry wasn't sure if she was joking. With Wednesday, it was often hard to tell. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a small, nervous-looking first-year boy. Harry Potter, the boy squeaked. I have a message for you and Wednesday Addams. He thrust a tightly rolled scroll into Harry's hand and scurried away as if afraid of catching something. Harry unrolled the parchment. It's from Dumbledore. He wants to see us in his office. Now. They made their way to the gargoyle guarding the headmaster's office, gave the password, fizzing whiz-bees, and rode the spiral staircase upward. Harry knocked on the heavy wooden door. Enter, Dumbledore called. They found the headmaster seated behind his desk, looking grave. Beside him stood a thin, austere-looking wizard in plain black robes. The stranger had close-cropped grey hair and sharp features that reminded Harry of a hawk. Ah, Harry, Wednesday. Thank you for coming. Dumbledore gestured to the stranger. This is Darius Crowley, from the Department of Mysteries. He has some questions for you both. Harry felt a surge of wariness. An unspeakable, here at Hogwarts. After their discussions about who might have separated them as babies, he couldn't help but be suspicious. Mr. Potter, Miss Addams, Crowley nodded to each of them. His voice was dry and precise. I understand you've recently discovered your familial connection. Yes, Harry replied cautiously. And that you've experienced some unusual magical phenomena when together. Define unusual, Wednesday said coolly. Crowley's lips twitched. The shattering of every window on the Hogwarts Express would qualify, I believe. That was an accident, Harry said. Of course. Crowley clasped his hands behind his back. The department is interested in such accidents, particularly when they involve twins with your unique magical signatures. Why? Wednesday asked bluntly. Research, Crowley replied smoothly. The Department of Mysteries studies all aspects of magic, especially rare manifestations. Magical twins are uncommon enough. Twins separated at birth, each developing different magical traditions, then reuniting. Unprecedented. Harry exchanged glances with Wednesday. She gave an almost imperceptible shake of her head. Don't trust him. We're still learning to control it, Harry said vaguely. Professor Lupin and the Addamses are helping us. Yes, I've heard about your special lessons. Crowley's tone conveyed exactly what he thought of those arrangements. The Ministry believes more structured guidance might be beneficial. I would like to offer my services as an additional instructor. Why? Wednesday asked again. As I said, no. Why now? We've been at Hogwarts together for weeks. The Ministry has known about our connection since Platform 9 3/4, at minimum. Why approach us now? Crowley's expression hardened slightly. Recent events have accelerated the timeline. Sirius Black's intrusion, for instance. What does Black have to do with us? Harry demanded. That remains to be determined, Crowley said. But his targeting of Gryffindor Tower, so soon after your reunion, seems unlikely to be coincidental. You believe he's after Harry because of the connection to Voldemort, Wednesday stated. But what if he's after both of us because of the prophecy? A flicker of something, surprise. Alarm, crossed Crowley's face before his impassive mask returned. You know about the prophecy. We know one exists, Harry said. Not what it says exactly. Crowley turned to Dumbledore. You told them about the prophecy? I mentioned its existence, Dumbledore replied calmly. They have a right to know. With respect, Headmaster, prophecies are Ministry property, under Department of Mysteries jurisdiction. Unauthorized disclosure concerns a prediction about our lives, Wednesday interrupted. Our existence, our future. If anyone has a right to that information, it's us. Crowley regarded her coldly. Miss Addams. I understand you were raised with different magical traditions. But in Britain, there are procedures. Rules. The full prophecy can only be retrieved from the Hall of Prophecies by those it concerns, at the appropriate time. And who decides when that time is? Harry asked. You. The department has protocols, the same department that apparently kidnapped a baby and shipped her to America. Harry felt his temper rising. Forgive me if I don't trust your protocols. Crowley's face tightened. You should be careful with such accusations, Mr. Potter. You have no evidence the department was involved in your sister's relocation. But you don't deny it's possible, Wednesday noted. A tense silence fell. Dumbledore watched the exchange with thoughtful eyes, making no move to intervene. Finally, Crowley spoke again, his voice controlled. My offer stands. The Ministry can provide resources for understanding and controlling your combined abilities. Resources that Hogwarts, with all due respect to the headmaster, cannot match. We appreciate the offer, Harry said stiffly, but we're doing fine with our current arrangements. For now, perhaps. Crowley reached into his robes and withdrew 2 identical silver medallions on thin chains. Should you change your minds, these will allow you to contact me directly. They're also designed to help stabilize your magical connection, preventing accidents. He placed the medallions on Dumbledore's desk. Consider it a gesture of good faith. With a nod to Dumbledore, Crowley swept from the office, the door closing softly behind him. Harry turned to Dumbledore. Sir, why did you let him question us? Sometimes, Harry, it is better to meet potential adversaries directly, to understand their intentions. Dumbledore picked up one of the medallions, examining it. Mr. Crowley has been most insistent about meeting you both. I thought it better to allow it under controlled circumstances. Do you think he was involved in separating us? Harry asked. It seems likely, Dumbledore admitted. The Department of Mysteries operates with considerable autonomy, even from the Minister of Magic. They have access to information and magical resources few others possess. Including prophecies, Wednesday said. Indeed. Dumbledore set the medallion down. I would advise against using these. Though they appear harmless, unspeakables rarely give gifts without hidden purpose. We weren't planning to, Harry assured him. Dumbledore smiled faintly. Good. Now, I believe you both have a special lesson scheduled with Professor Lupin and the Addamses this evening. They recognized the dismissal and stood to leave. At the door, Wednesday paused. Headmaster. The prophecy. Does it say whether our combined power is meant to be used for protection or destruction? Dumbledore's blue eyes twinkled with something like approval. An excellent question, Miss Addams. Like most prophecies, it is open to interpretation. But remember, prophecies tell us what may be, not what must be. The choice, ultimately, remains yours. Wednesday nodded, seemingly satisfied with this non-answer, and followed Harry out. As they descended the spiral staircase, Harry voiced what they were both thinking. Crowley knows more than he's saying. Obviously, Wednesday agreed. He was measuring our knowledge, testing our reactions. And he was far too interested in our combined magic. You think he wants to use it somehow? Or prevent it from being used? Either way, he's a threat. Harry couldn't argue with that assessment. So what do we do? Wednesday's dark eyes gleamed. We find the prophecy. The full version. And we discover exactly why the Department of Mysteries is so interested in us. Their opportunity came sooner than expected. The following Saturday was a Hogsmeade weekend, the first of the year. Harry, still lacking a permission slip signed by a guardian, was forced to remain at the castle while his friends enjoyed the Wizarding Village. I could forge Uncle Vernon's signature, he suggested to Hermione as they finished breakfast. Harry. That would be easily detected, Wednesday interrupted. She had taken to occasionally sitting at the Gryffindor table, ignoring both tradition and the scandalized looks of other students. Magical contracts require genuine intent from the signatory. A forgery would be magically null. Harry slumped in disappointment. So I'm stuck here while everyone else has fun. Not everyone, Wednesday reminded him. I'm not going either. Harry blinked in surprise. You're not. But you have permission. Your parents are literally at the castle. Hogsmeade holds little interest for me. Besides, an empty castle provides opportunities. Her meaningful look wasn't lost on Harry. With most students and teachers in Hogsmeade, they would have freedom to explore, perhaps find answers to their questions. After Ron and Hermione departed with the other students, Harry met Wednesday in the entrance hall. I have something to show you, he said, leading her up to Gryffindor Tower. After enduring Sir Cadogan's ridiculous password challenge, Scurvy Cur, the portrait called after them, Harry retrieved the Marauder's map from his trunk. Fred and George gave it to me, he explained, unfolding the blank parchment. It shows everyone in the castle, where they are, what they're doing. Wednesday studied the parchment skeptically. It appears to be blank. Harry tapped it with his wand. I solemnly swear that I am up to no good. Ink spread across the parchment, revealing the detailed map of Hogwarts with tiny labeled dots moving throughout. Fascinating, Wednesday murmured. A comprehensive tracking charm combined with a concealment enchantment. The creators were clever. Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs, Harry pointed to the names at the top of the map. Don't know who they were. Wednesday's eyes narrowed. When was this created? Not sure. Fred and George found it years ago. Wednesday studied the map thoughtfully. Let me see. Her fingers traced over the castle layout, pausing at certain locations. There. The headmaster's office. Dumbledore is pacing. And there's Lupin in his office. Harry pointed to another dot. Most of the students are gone, as expected. Wednesday's eyes scanned the map systematically. Wait. Who's that? She pointed to a dot labeled Peter Pettigrew, moving along a third-floor corridor. Peter Pettigrew? Harry frowned. That can't be right. He's dead. Sirius Black killed him. Evidently not, Wednesday said drily. Unless the map tracks ghosts, which seems unlikely given the absence of the castle's known spectral residents. It must be a mistake, Harry insisted. The map's old, could be malfunctioning. Let's find out. Wednesday was already heading for the door. If someone presumed dead is wandering Hogwarts during a convenient student exodus, I want to know why. They hurried through the castle, consulting the map as they went. The dot labeled Peter Pettigrew was moving erratically, as if its owner was searching for something, or running from something. He's heading for the dungeons, Harry noted as they descended a staircase. Suddenly, another dot appeared on the map, moving rapidly through a secret passage directly toward Pettigrew. The label read, Sirius Black. Black is here. Harry gasped. In the castle. And he's after Pettigrew. Fascinating, Wednesday's eyes gleamed with interest rather than fear. Two supposedly dead or imprisoned men, one allegedly murdered by the other, now engaged in a chase through a school. The plot thickens. We need to tell someone, after we see for ourselves, Wednesday countered. This may be our only chance to discover what connects these men to us. Harry hesitated, torn between the sensible course of alerting a teacher and his burning curiosity about anything connected to his parents and their fate. Fine, he decided. But we stay together, and at the first sign of danger, we find Lupin or Dumbledore. Wednesday nodded, clearly having no intention of retreating from potential danger. They continued down to the dungeons, where the map showed Pettigrew cornered in a disused storage room, Black closing in. They approached cautiously, hearing voices raised in argument behind the heavy door. Thought you could hide forever, a raspy voice growled. 12 years, Peter. 12 years in Azkaban while you lived as a pet. Please, Sirius, a squeaky, terrified voice pleaded. I had no choice. The Dark Lord, you don't understand the weapons he possesses. You betrayed James and Lily. Your friends. What would you have done? He would have killed me. Then you should have died. Black roared. Died rather than betray your friends, as we would have done for you. Harry felt like he'd been struck by lightning. Every account he'd heard claimed Black had betrayed his parents to Voldemort. But here was Black accusing Pettigrew of that very crime. Wednesday placed a hand on his arm, steadying him. She nodded toward the door. Listen. I didn't just betray them to death. Pettigrew's voice had changed, a note of sly defensiveness entering it. I helped save one of the twins. That counts for something, doesn't it? You. Black's laugh was hollow. You had nothing to do with Wednesday's escape. That was Lily's plan, implemented by those who actually cared about the children. I carried the girl to the portkey. Pettigrew insisted. After you left to chase after you-know-who, I took her from her crib. I could have left her to die. Liar. Black snarled. You were already gone when I arrived at the cottage. And I never chased Voldemort, I was looking for you. Harry couldn't take it anymore. He pushed the door open, wand raised. Stop. The scene inside froze. Sirius Black, gaunt, filthy, with matted hair and sunken eyes, stood with his wand pointed at a cowering, rat-like man. Pettigrew was balding and pudgy, his watery eyes widening in shock at the sight of the newcomers. Harry, Black breathed, his wild eyes softening. You look so like James. And you, Pettigrew squeaked, pointing a trembling finger at Wednesday, the spitting image of your mother, but with your father's coloring. Both of you, quiet, Harry commanded, surprised at the steadiness in his voice despite his racing heart. I want answers. Now. Wednesday stepped forward, her own wand held casually but ready. Starting with why a supposedly dead man is hiding in a castle, and why an escaped convict is hunting him. Black barked a laugh. Smart. Like your mother. His eyes darted between the twins. You found each other. Good. That's good. He's insane, Pettigrew whispered. Azkaban broke his mind. He's going to kill me, just like he tried to kill me 12 years ago. After you betrayed my parents to Voldemort? Harry demanded. Pettigrew flinched violently. No. It was him. Sirius was the secret keeper. Everyone knows. We switched, Black said hoarsely. At the last minute. I thought I was being clever. Who would suspect weak, talentless Peter? It was the perfect bluff. His face contorted with grief and rage. But he was already Voldemort's spy. And I handed him the key to finding them. Harry felt dizzy with confusion. Everything he thought he knew about his parents' death was being upended. Prove it, Wednesday said suddenly, her calm voice cutting through the chaos. What? Black looked at her in surprise. Prove your claims. Both of you. You say he's an unregistered animagus? Demonstrate. How did you know that? Black frowned. I didn't. But you just confirmed it. Wednesday smiled thinly. You claimed he lived as a pet for 12 years. The logical conclusion is an animal form. A rat, I presume, given his appearance. Pettigrew paled. And no, show us, Harry insisted, catching Wednesday's strategy. If you're innocent, prove it. He'll kill me if I transform. Pettigrew wailed. We'll prevent that, Wednesday promised, though her tone suggested she might not be overly committed to his protection. Black's eyes narrowed. On 3, we'll cast together. Force him to show his true form. The twins nodded in agreement. Before they could act, however, the door burst open behind them. Professor Lupin stood in the doorway, wand raised, eyes wide with shock. Sirius, he breathed. It's really you. Remus, Black's voice cracked. He's here. Pettigrew. Just like I told you in my letter. Lupin's gaze shifted to the cowering man, then to the twins standing between them. His expression hardened. Harry, Wednesday, step aside. This is more dangerous than you know. We know enough, Wednesday replied coolly. Pettigrew betrayed our parents, then faked his death to frame Black. We don't know that for sure, Harry cautioned, though he was beginning to believe Black's version. Then let's find out. Lupin stepped forward, wand trained on Pettigrew. Peter, old friend. Let's see if Sirius is telling the truth, shall we? Remus, Pettigrew squeaked, you don't believe him? After everything we went through together? Your friend, your ally. My ally wouldn't have hidden for 12 years if innocent, Lupin said coldly. On 3, Sirius. Together, Black and Lupin cast a spell at Pettigrew. Blue-white light hit the whimpering man, who began to transform, his body shrinking, fur sprouting, his face elongating into a pointed snout. Within seconds, a large rat was scurrying for a crack in the wall. Oh no you don't. Black snarled, casting again. The rat froze mid-stride, then began to expand back into human form. Pettigrew lay sprawled on the stone floor, his secret exposed. Well, Wednesday remarked. The rat metaphor proves literal. You've been hiding all this time, Lupin said softly to Pettigrew. While Sirius rotted in Azkaban for your crime. I was scared. Pettigrew whimpered. You don't know what the Dark Lord supporters would have done to me. I had to disappear. So you cut off your own finger, killed a dozen muggles with a single curse, and transformed, Black spat. framing me perfectly while escaping as a rat. Harry felt sick. This sniveling, pathetic man had cost him his parents, his childhood, his sister. You separated us, he realized aloud. You helped take Wednesday to America. Only to save her. Pettigrew insisted. Lily had arranged it all, the portkey, the Addams family connection. I just helped. After you know who fell, the Death Eaters would have hunted both of you. Separating you was safer. Liar, Black growled. You wanted the twins separated because of the prophecy. Because together, they might someday expose your treachery. Wednesday's eyes narrowed dangerously. What do you know about the prophecy? Pettigrew's gaze darted between them. Only what everyone in the order knew. Twins with special magic. Power the Dark Lord knew not. Did you tell Voldemort about the prophecy? Harry demanded. About both of us? No. Just the part Snape overheard, about a child born as the 7th month dies. I didn't know about twins until after you were born. Pettigrew was babbling now, desperate to save himself. But later, after I joined him, I learned the Department of Mysteries had their own interest in the prophecy. An unspeakable, Crowley, he approached me. Said the twins needed to be separated for the greater good. Harry and Wednesday exchanged sharp glances. Crowley. The same man who had questioned them in Dumbledore's office. What was his interest? Wednesday asked. Control. Pettigrew said eagerly, seeing their interest as a lifeline. He said your combined magic could disrupt the balance, overturn the statute of secrecy itself. After the Dark Lord fell, Crowley found me. Said if I helped separate you permanently, he'd protect me. And he did. He's the one who suggested the rat form, helped fake my death. The pieces were falling into place. Pettigrew had betrayed their parents to Voldemort, then helped implement Lily's emergency plan to save Wednesday, not out of loyalty, but as part of a new arrangement with Crowley, who wanted the twins separated for his own reasons. So Black is innocent, Harry concluded. Of betraying my parents and of killing Pettigrew. He's still a murderer. Pettigrew cried desperately. Those muggles were killed by your blasting curse, Lupin interrupted. I see it all now, Sirius. Why you escaped when you did. You saw Peter in that newspaper photo, realized he was at Hogwarts, close to Harry. Black nodded grimly. With the twins reunited, I knew he'd make a move. Either run or, worse. The logical course is clear, Wednesday said matter-of-factly. Pettigrew must be taken to the authorities to clear Black's name and expose Crowley's manipulation. No. Pettigrew flung himself at Harry's feet. Harry. Your father wouldn't have wanted me killed. He would have shown mercy. My father, Harry said coldly, would have wanted his betrayer brought to justice. Lupin and Black seized Pettigrew by the arms, hauling him upright. We'll take him to Dumbledore, Lupin decided. He'll know how to handle this without ministry interference. Yes. Pettigrew agreed frantically. Dumbledore. He'll be fair. They bound Pettigrew with magical cords and prepared to leave the dungeon. As they reached the door, Wednesday paused, tilting her head as if listening to something only she could hear. We have company, she said softly. Someone's in the corridor. Before anyone could respond, the door blasted open. Darius Crowley stood in the entrance, flanked by two other wizards in Department of Mysteries robes. All had wands drawn. Well, well, Crowley said silkily. This is an unexpected gathering. Black, Lupin, Pettigrew, and the Potter twins. How convenient. Crowley. Pettigrew squealed. Help me. They're going to kill me. Crowley's eyes flickered dismissively over Pettigrew. You've outlived your usefulness, I'm afraid. 12 years of failure to keep the twins separated. This ends now, Lupin said firmly. We know everything, Crowley. About your involvement in separating the twins. About your deal with Pettigrew. Not everything, Crowley replied smoothly. Not nearly everything. He gestured to his companions. Secure Black and Lupin. The twins come with us. I don't think so, Harry raised his wand, Wednesday doing the same beside him. Children, Crowley sighed. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Your combined magic is too dangerous to remain unregulated. The department has known this since before your birth. The prophecy, Wednesday said. You believe will destroy the magical order. Not believe. No. Crowley's eyes gleamed with fervent intensity. We've seen it. Time magic allows glimpses of potential futures. In every scenario where you remain together, untrained, the statute of secrecy falls within 10 years. Magical war follows. Millions die. So you separated us, Harry said bitterly. Let Voldemort attack our family. That was unfortunate timing, Crowley admitted. Our plan was simply to raise you in different magical traditions. The Potter attack accelerated matters, necessitated improvisation. With Pettigrew's help, Black snarled. He was convenient, Crowley shrugged. Desperate men are so useful. If you're so concerned about our magic, Wednesday said coolly, why not simply kill us? Harry shot her an alarmed look, but she ignored him, her eyes fixed on Crowley. Because the prophecy works both ways, Crowley replied. Separate, you're powerful but controllable. Together, properly trained, you could save our world from greater threats to come. The department prefers options. And those options include abducting us now? Harry asked. Training you, Crowley corrected. Under department supervision. Away from Dumbledore's manipulations and the Addams family's chaotic influence. No thanks, Harry said firmly. We'll take our chances with Dumbledore. Crowley sighed. I'd hoped for cooperation. Unfortunately, we're prepared for resistance. He nodded to his associates, who raised their wands. Before they could cast, however, Wednesday stepped forward. Wait, she said. You're right about one thing. Our combined magic is unpredictable, dangerous. Are you certain you want to witness it firsthand? In a confined space. With limited escape routes. Doubt flickered across Crowley's face. You can't control it yet. You'd risk hurting yourselves and everyone here. Risk is relative, Wednesday smiled thinly. The Addams family embraces it. Perhaps Harry and I have found common ground there. Harry caught her meaning. He moved closer to his sister, their shoulders almost touching. Immediately, he felt the now familiar surge of energy between them, like static electricity amplified 100-fold. Last chance, Crowley, Harry warned, feeling braver with Wednesday beside him. Leave us alone, or find out exactly what untrained twin magic looks like when it's aimed at you. Crowley hesitated, clearly reassessing the situation. The air around the twins had begun to shimmer, small objects on nearby shelves vibrating. This isn't over, he said finally, lowering his wand slightly. The department has resources beyond your imagination. Whatever threat he planned to deliver was cut short by a massive, earth-shaking boom from somewhere above them. The castle trembled, dust raining from the ceiling. What? Black began. Dementors, Lupin said, face pale. Dozens of them. I can feel it. Another explosion rocked the castle, closer this time. Crowley and his associates exchanged alarmed glances. Later, Crowley decided, backing toward the door. This situation requires reassessment. He and his companions retreated hastily, disappearing down the corridor. The Dementors must have detected Black, Lupin said urgently. We need to move, now. What about him? Harry jerked his head toward Pettigrew, who was trying to shrink against the wall. Bring him, Wednesday said coldly. His testimony is our evidence. They hurried from the dungeons, Pettigrew bound between them, following Lupin's lead toward the upper floors. The map showed chaos throughout the castle, teachers running toward the entrances, Dementors swarming the grounds. "They're coming through every entrance," Harry reported, watching the map in horror. "There are too many." "They're hunting me," Black said grimly. "Dumbledore's office is our best chance." They ran through deserted corridors, the air growing colder with each passing minute. Twice they had to change course to avoid Dementors that had breached the castle. Almost there, Lupin panted as they reached the second floor. A bone-chilling cold swept over them. At the end of the corridor, 3 Dementors glided toward them, their rattling breath echoing off the stone walls. "Run!" Black pushed them toward a side passage. "I'll hold them off." "No." Harry grabbed his arm. "They'll take your soul." Black's gaunt face softened briefly. "So like your father. Always protecting others." "Sentiment is inefficient," Wednesday interrupted. "We fight together or die separately." She raised her wand, speaking words in a language Harry didn't recognize. Dark smoke poured from her wand tip, forming a barrier between them and the approaching Dementors. "Addams' magic," she explained briefly. "It won't hold them long." "The Patronus charm is our best defense," Lupin said, raising his own wand. "Think of your happiest memory, Harry." Harry tried to focus, to find a truly happy memory, but the Dementor's influence was already affecting him. His mother's screams echoed in his mind. "I can't," he gasped. "I can't focus." "Then don't use happiness," Wednesday suggested, her voice strained as she maintained her smoke barrier. "Use purpose. Intent. The will to survive." It clicked in Harry's mind. The Patronus didn't have to come from conventional happiness. He thought of finding Wednesday, of discovering he wasn't alone. Not just happiness, connection. Purpose. "Expecto Patronum," he shouted. A silver mist erupted from his wand, not fully formed, but stronger than his previous attempts. Together, Wednesday urged, abandoning her smoke spell to stand shoulder to shoulder with him. "On 3. They counted down, then cast simultaneously, Expecto Patronum. Expecto Mortis Defensorum. Their spells collided and merged. Instead of the usual silver Patronus, a creature of swirling silver and shadow burst forth. Not quite corporeal, it nonetheless had massive wings and burning eyes, part phoenix, part thestral, completely unique. The hybrid Patronus charged the Dementors, driving them back with shocking force. The dark creatures actually recoiled in what looked like fear, fleeing down the corridor. "Merlin's beard," Lupin breathed. "I've never seen anything like that." "The books never mentioned shadow patron uses," Black added, staring in awe as the creature circled back to hover protectively over the twins. "Because they don't exist," Wednesday said, studying their creation with clinical interest. "This is something new. A combination of the traditional Patronus and the Addams Death Guardian." Harry felt simultaneously drained and exhilarated. The hybrid Patronus seemed to be stabilizing, becoming more defined as they watched. It turned its burning gaze on Pettigrew, who cowered behind Lupin. "It's sentient," Wednesday observed. "Or at least, has purpose beyond simple Dementor repulsion." "We can admire it later," Lupin urged. "We need to reach Dumbledore." With their shadow Patronus leading the way, they continued through the castle. It drove off 2 more groups of Dementors before they reached the gargoyle guarding the headmaster's office. "Fizzing whiz-bees," Harry gasped, and the gargoyle leapt aside. They stumbled onto the spiral staircase, ascending to Dumbledore's office. The headmaster was not there, presumably dealing with the Dementor invasion, but they barricaded themselves inside anyway. "We can't stay here long," Lupin said, securing Pettigrew to a chair. "The Dementors won't stop until they find Sirius. Or until they're ordered to leave," Black added grimly. "Which won't happen without ministry intervention." Wednesday had gone to the window, looking out at the castle grounds. "They're surrounding the castle." Dumbledore and the other professors are creating a perimeter, but there are too many. Harry joined her at the window. Dementors swarmed across the grounds like a plague of shadows, held back only by the silver patron uses of the Hogwarts staff. We need to help, he decided. Our combined Patronus is stronger than anything I've seen. Agreed, Wednesday nodded. Logically, we should join the defense. Absolutely not, Lupin protested. It's too dangerous. You need to stay here where it's safe. Nowhere is safe if the Dementors breach the castle fully, Black pointed out. And their Patronus is remarkable. We're going, Harry said firmly. Professor Lupin, you stay with Pettigrew. We need him alive to clear Sirius's name. And you? Lupin asked Black. You should stay hidden. Black laughed hollowly. Hide while children fight my battles. James would never forgive me. He transformed into the great black dog Harry had seen on Magnolia Crescent months ago. They'll have a harder time sensing me in this form. Decision made, they left Pettigrew secured in Dumbledore's office with Lupin standing guard. Harry, Wednesday, and Padfoot raced through the castle toward the entrance hall. Their shadow Patronus glided ahead, keeping Dementors at bay. As they reached the great oak doors, they found chaos. Professor McGonagall and Flitwick stood on the steps, patron uses aloft, holding back a wave of Dementors. Gomez and Morticia Addams flanked them, using what appeared to be ancient battle magic, whips of fire and darkness that lashed out at any Dementor that ventured too close. Potter! Miss Addams! McGonagall shouted when she saw them. Get back inside. We can help. Harry called back. We've created a new kind of Patronus. As if to demonstrate, their shadow guardian swooped toward the Dementor horde, scattering them like bowling pins. Cara mia! Gomez called to Morticia, eyes shining with manic glee. Did you see that? Our Wednesday has created a Death Guardian. I'm so proud. Not the time, Gomez, Morticia replied calmly, though her eyes shone with similar pride. Where's Dumbledore? Harry asked McGonagall. At the gates, attempting to communicate with the Dementor leaders, she replied tersely. Though I doubt they'll listen. They seem frenzied. It's the combined life force, Wednesday observed. Harry and I together present a feast to them. Our magical signature is drawing them. Then we need to draw them away from the castle, Harry realized. Lead them somewhere we can fight them on our terms. The Quidditch pitch, Wednesday suggested. Open space, no students, clear lines of sight. Are you mad? McGonagall spluttered. You cannot possibly consider using yourselves as bait. It's the logical solution, Wednesday replied calmly. Either we draw them away, or they eventually overwhelm the castle's defenses. Arithmetically speaking, the odds favor our plan. McGonagall looked like she wanted to argue further, but another wave of Dementors surged forward, forcing her to focus on her Patronus. Go, she shouted over her shoulder. Get to the pitch. I'll send word to Albus. Harry, Wednesday, and Padfoot sprinted across the grounds, their shadow Patronus creating a path through the Dementor swarm. As Wednesday had predicted, the dark creatures seemed drawn to the twins, many breaking off from the castle to pursue them. It's working. Harry called as they reached the Quidditch pitch. They're following us. Now we fight, Wednesday replied, her pale face set with determination. They took positions in the center of the pitch, back to back. Padfoot circled them protectively, growling at the approaching Dementors. Same as before, Harry said. On 3. They raised their wands as one, focusing on their shared intent, not happiness, but protection, determination, the will to survive together after years apart. 1, 2, 3. Expecto Patronum. Expecto Mortis Defensorum. This time, their combined spell was even more powerful. The shadow Patronus erupted from their wands with physical force, its form now fully defined, a massive winged creature with the body of a thestral, the head of a phoenix, and eyes that burned like stars. It soared upward, then plunged into the Dementor swarm with devastating effect. Unlike a normal Patronus, which merely repelled Dementors, their creation seemed able to actually harm them. Wherever it touched a Dementor, the creature shrieked, an unearthly sound like tearing metal, and fled in what could only be described as terror. "It's hunting them," Wednesday observed with clinical satisfaction. Fascinating. Harry felt the drain on his magic but held firm, maintaining the connection with Wednesday. Around the pitch, professors and staff arrived, adding their patron uses to the defense. Dumbledore appeared beside them, his silver phoenix joining the fray. His expression was a mixture of concern and amazement as he observed their shadow guardian. "Most impressive," he commented mildly, as if they were demonstrating a charms homework assignment rather than revolutionary magic. "Though I must advise caution. Such magic draws deeply on your core strength." "We're fine," Harry insisted, though his legs were beginning to tremble with the effort. "The Dementors are retreating," McGonagall reported, jogging up to them. "Whatever that creation of yours is, it's working." Indeed, the Dementors were now in full flight, streaming away from the castle and back toward the gates. Their shadow Patronus pursued them relentlessly, driving them beyond the boundaries. "I believe," Dumbledore said quietly, "we are witnessing the fulfillment of part of the prophecy. Power the Dark Lord knows not, indeed." Harry felt Wednesday sway slightly beside him. Looking at her, he saw her face was even paler than usual, dark circles forming under her eyes. "We need to end the spell," he realized. "We're draining too fast." "Not yet," she insisted. "Not until they're gone completely. You've done enough." Dumbledore placed a gentle hand on each of their shoulders. "Let me take it from here." With obvious reluctance, they lowered their wands. The shadow Patronus gave one final screech of defiance before dissolving into wisps of silver and shadow that danced briefly around the twins before fading. "Sirius Black," McGonagall gasped suddenly, pointing at where Padfoot had transformed back into human form, too exhausted to maintain his animagus disguise. "Is innocent," Harry said quickly, swaying on his feet. "Pettigrew is alive. He's the one who betrayed my parents. He's in your office," he added to Dumbledore. "Indeed?" Dumbledore's eyebrows rose. "This has been quite the eventful day, it seems." "Crowley," Wednesday said, her voice faint but determined. "From the Department of Mysteries. He's involved. Orchestrated our separation." "All will be addressed," Dumbledore assured them. "But first, I believe both of you require medical attention. Magical exhaustion is no trivial matter." Harry wanted to argue, to insist they deal with Pettigrew immediately, but his vision was beginning to blur. Beside him, Wednesday's knees buckled. He caught her before she could fall, only to find himself sinking to the ground as well. The last thing Harry saw before darkness claimed him was Sirius Black's concerned face and Dumbledore's calculating gaze as they both reached for the fallen twins. Harry awoke in the hospital wing, sunlight streaming through the high windows. His body felt leaden, as if he'd played 3 Quidditch matches back to back. "Welcome back to the land of the living," a dry voice commented from his right. He turned his head to see Wednesday in the adjacent bed, looking pale but alert. She was reading a thick, ancient-looking book. "How long was I out?" Harry croaked. "Approximately 36 hours. Magical exhaustion is apparently quite serious." 36 hours. Harry tried to sit up, then fell back with a groan. "What about Pettigrew? Sirius? Crowley?" "Still being sorted out, from what I gather." Wednesday closed her book. "Dumbledore has Pettigrew secured somewhere. Black is hidden as well. As for Crowley, he seems to have disappeared in the chaos." "Convenient," Harry muttered. "Indeed." The hospital wing doors opened, and Madame Pomfrey bustled in, followed by Dumbledore, Lupin, and the Addamses. "Ah, Mr. Potter is awake," Madame Pomfrey observed. Good. Drink this. She thrust a potion into his hands. Harry grimaced at the smell but downed it obediently. Instantly, warmth spread through his limbs, the heaviness receding. Better? Dumbledore asked kindly. Much, Harry admitted. Sir, what's happening with Sirius? Mr. Black is currently secure in a location known only to myself, Dumbledore replied. Once he has recovered his strength, we will proceed with clearing his name, a process that will require Peter Pettigrew's testimony. And our cooperation, I assume, Wednesday added. Indeed, Miss Addams. Your memories of Pettigrew's confession will be invaluable. What about Crowley? Harry asked. He admitted to being involved in separating us. Dumbledore's expression grew serious. Mr. Crowley has returned to the Department of Mysteries, claiming no knowledge of the Dementor attack. The minister is reluctant to pursue accusations against a senior unspeakable without concrete evidence. We have evidence, Harry insisted. Our memories are unfortunately considered potentially compromised, given your magical exhaustion at the time. Dumbledore sighed. Politics, I'm afraid, often interferes with justice. So he gets away with it. Harry couldn't keep the bitterness from his voice. For now, Dumbledore conceded. But Mr. Crowley has revealed himself, shown his hand. That gives us an advantage for the future. Morticia stepped forward, her movement as fluid as ever. In the meantime, we've been discussing your training. After the impressive display with the Dementors, it's clear your combined magic requires more structured guidance. You created something previously undocumented, Gomez added, eyes gleaming with excitement. A Patronus that hunts dark creatures. Magnificent. The Shadow Guardian is extremely rare in magical literature, Lupin explained more soberly. Its appearance suggests your magic is evolving beyond traditional boundaries. Which is precisely why the Department of Mysteries is interested in you, Dumbledore concluded. And why we must be prepared for further intervention from them. Harry exchanged glances with Wednesday. So what happens now? Now, Dumbledore smiled, you rest and recover. Once you're released from Madame Pomfrey's excellent care, we will resume your special training with increased focus. And in the meantime, Wednesday said shrewdly, you'll be making arrangements regarding Sirius Black and Peter Pettigrew. Perceptive as always, Miss Addams, Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. Yes, certain, delicate negotiations are underway. The adults departed soon after, leaving Harry and Wednesday alone again. He's not telling us everything, Harry observed once they were gone. Obviously, Wednesday agreed. The prophecy, Crowley's true motives, the extent of our combined abilities, he's keeping cards in reserve. Just like everyone else, Harry said bitterly. Our whole lives, people have been making decisions about us, separating us, lying to us. Which is why we must become strong enough to take control of our own destiny, Wednesday replied. The Shadow Patronus was just the beginning. Harry nodded, determination replacing frustration. We'll master this. Whatever our combined magic can do, we'll learn to control it. And then, Wednesday's dark eyes gleamed, we'll find Crowley and discover exactly what he fears from the prophecy. Agreed. Harry held out his hand. Wednesday took it, her cool fingers closing around his. The moment they touched, a spark of magic danced between their palms, not the overwhelming surge from before, but a controlled current, as if their magic was learning to harmonize rather than explode. Progress, Wednesday noted with satisfaction. Harry smiled. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever secrets still remained hidden, one thing was certain, he wasn't facing them alone anymore. In the days that followed, news broke that shook the wizarding world, Sirius Black was innocent. Peter Pettigrew, allegedly murdered by Black 12 years ago, was alive and had confessed to betraying the Potters. The Daily Prophet ran front-page stories describing the Ministry's embarrassment and the impending review of Black's case. What wasn't reported was Crowley's involvement or the Department of Mystery's interest in the Potter twins. Dumbledore had advised keeping that information private, at least until Black's name was fully cleared and they better understood the extent of the conspiracy. Harry and Wednesday returned to classes, now minor celebrities for their role in exposing Pettigrew and creating the Shadow Patronus that had driven away the Dementors. The story had grown with each retelling, until some students claimed the twins had summoned a demon that devoured Dementor souls. Technically inaccurate, Wednesday had commented when they overheard this rumor. Though the Shadow Guardian does seem to feed on their essence in some way. Their special training intensified. 3 evenings a week, they worked with Lupin and the Addamses, learning to control and direct their combined magic. Progress was remarkable, spells that had once caused explosive discharge now channeled smoothly between them. "You're creating a balanced circuit," Morticia explained during one session. Harry's magic flows outward, Wednesday's draws inward. Together, you complete each other's magical signature. Like positive and negative poles, Hermione suggested when Harry described it later. She had finally overcome her wariness of Wednesday and now regularly joined their study sessions, fascinated by the theoretical aspects of twin magic. "More like complementary resonance," Wednesday corrected. "Our magical cores vibrate at frequencies that amplify when combined." Ron, less interested in magical theory, was nonetheless impressed by the practical applications. "So you two could take on a dozen wizards at once now?" 23, by my calculation, Wednesday replied seriously, causing Ron to choke on his pumpkin juice. December arrived, bringing snow to the Hogwarts grounds and news that Sirius Black's case would receive an expedited review by the Wizengamot. Harry received regular updates via Owl from his godfather, who remained in hiding until his name was officially cleared. "He's offered to become my guardian," Harry told Wednesday as they walked by the frozen lake one afternoon. "Once he's legally free. I wouldn't have to go back to the Dursleys." "Logical," Wednesday nodded. "He is your godfather, after all." "Our godfather," Harry corrected. "He was named godfather to both of us." Wednesday considered this. "Interesting. That creates a legal connection between us as well. Would you want that?" Harry asked cautiously. "I know you have the Addamses, who remain my family," Wednesday said firmly. "But legal recognition of our connection would be satisfactory." Harry grinned. From Wednesday, that was practically a declaration of familial love. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a breathless first year, who thrust a note into Harry's hands before scurrying away. From Dumbledore, Harry read. "He wants to see us in his office immediately." They made their way to the headmaster's office, speculating about the reason for the summons. When they arrived, they found not only Dumbledore waiting, but also Minister for Magic Cornelius Fudge and a grim-faced wizard Harry didn't recognize. "Ah, Harry, Wednesday," Dumbledore greeted them. "Thank you for coming promptly. I believe you know Minister Fudge. And this is Broderick Bode, head of the Department of Mysteries." Harry tensed, and he felt Wednesday do the same beside him. Another unspeakable, even more senior than Crowley. "Mr. Potter, Miss Addams," Bode nodded to them. His voice was raspy, as if rarely used. "I understand you had an encounter with one of my employees recently." "You could say that," Harry replied carefully. "He tried to abduct us." Bode's expression remained neutral. "Darius Crowley has been relieved of his duties pending an internal investigation." "How convenient," Wednesday observed coldly. "An internal investigation that will doubtless conclude quietly with no consequences." Fudge bristled. "Now see here, young lady, what Miss Addams means," Dumbledore interrupted smoothly, "is that there are concerns about transparency, given the serious nature of the allegations. Which is precisely why I'm here," Bode said. "To offer a gesture of good faith." He reached into his robes and withdrew a small crystal sphere that glowed with misty white light. Harry recognized it immediately from descriptions he'd read, a prophecy record. "The prophecy concerning you both," Bode explained, placing it on Dumbledore's desk. "Recovered from the Hall of Prophecies. By rights, as the subjects, you should have access to it. Harry and Wednesday exchanged suspicious glances. After weeks of secrecy and manipulation, this sudden transparency seemed too convenient. Why now? Wednesday asked. Crowley acted without authorization, Bode claimed. His interpretation of the prophecy was extreme. The department does not share his views on the necessity of keeping you separated. How generous, Wednesday's tone could have frozen fire. After 12 years of complicity. Bode's eyes narrowed slightly. The department's position is more nuanced than you understand, Miss Addams. But we are attempting to make amends. By giving us what was rightfully ours all along, Harry noted. Politicians, Gomez had once remarked during a lesson, offer concessions only when backed into corners. The Addamses' lessons on strategy and negotiation had proven as valuable as their magical instruction. Nevertheless, Dumbledore interjected, this is an opportunity to learn the truth. The prophecy can only be retrieved by those it concerns, but once retrieved, it may be heard by all present. Harry looked to Wednesday, who gave a slight nod. Together, they reached for the crystal sphere. The moment their fingers touched it, a ghostly figure rose from its depths, Professor Trelawney, her eyes unfocused, voice harsh and raspy, twins born as the seventh month dies. One marked by darkness, one by light. Apart, their paths diverge, magic follows separate streams. Together, they bridge worlds divided by time and intent. Blood of ancient houses flowing through both, power forgotten and power renewed. The Dark Lord will mark one as equal, but both shall wield the power to vanquish him. Separated, they remain within the order. United, they shall overturn the foundations. For good or ill, their combined magic will break the barriers between worlds. The figure sank back into the sphere, which darkened and cracked down the middle, its purpose fulfilled. Silence filled the office. Well, Fudge said finally, looking distinctly uncomfortable. Most prophecies are quite ambiguous, of course. Open to various interpretations, it seems clear enough to me, Wednesday interrupted. Together, we have the power to change the magical world. Overturn the foundations could mean many things. Which is precisely why Crowley was concerned, Bode admitted. The statute of secrecy is the foundation of our world. If it were to fall. That's one interpretation, Dumbledore noted mildly. Foundations could equally refer to prejudices, limitations of current magical understanding, or institutional corruption. Fudge spluttered indignantly, but Bode merely looked thoughtful. The department's primary concern is stability, he said finally. Crowley's methods were extreme, but his fears weren't entirely unfounded. Your Shadow Patronus demonstrates magic beyond our current understanding. So what happens now? Harry asked. Are you going to try to separate us again? Bode shook his head. That opportunity is long past. You've bonded magically. Attempting to sever that connection now would likely kill you both. How reassuring, Wednesday remarked drily. The department proposes a compromise, Bode continued. You continue your education at Hogwarts, with your special training overseen jointly by Dumbledore and department specialists. In exchange, we share our resources, our knowledge of your unique magic. And what do we get from this arrangement? Wednesday asked skeptically. Besides access to centuries of magical research? Bode raised an eyebrow. Protection. Crowley wasn't acting entirely alone. There are others who fear what your combined magic represents, both within the Ministry and among the Dark Lord's old supporters. Harry exchanged glances with Wednesday, a silent communication passing between them. This offer was clearly the result of behind-the-scenes negotiation between Dumbledore and the department, a compromise neither side was entirely happy with. We'll consider it, Harry said finally. But we have conditions. Fudge looked outraged. Conditions? Your children. You don't set conditions for the Ministry of Magic. Children who drove off 100 Dementors, Wednesday pointed out coldly. Children with magic that even the Department of Mysteries doesn't fully understand. I believe that earns us a voice. What conditions? Bode asked, ignoring Fudge's sputtering. First, Sirius Black receives a full pardon in compensation for wrongful imprisonment, Harry stated firmly. Already in progress, Dumbledore assured him. Second, Wednesday continued, we want access to all department records concerning our parents, ourselves, and the prophecy. Bode hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. With certain security restrictions, that can be arranged. Third, Harry added, Crowley faces real consequences, not just administrative leave or reassignment. That will depend on the findings of the investigation, Bode hedged. Which we will be kept informed of, Wednesday insisted. And finally, Harry concluded, we maintain control over our own magic. We'll accept guidance, but not restrictions. No suppression, no attempts to limit what we can learn or practice. This final condition clearly made Bode uncomfortable, but after a moment's consideration, he nodded. Within reasonable safety parameters. Define reasonable, Wednesday demanded. No magic that inherently requires human sacrifice or causes irreversible harm to innocent subjects, Bode specified. Beyond that, we can negotiate specific boundaries. Harry and Wednesday conferred silently again, then turned back to the adults. Acceptable, they said in unison. The negotiations continued for another hour, with specific terms being hammered out. By the time they left Dumbledore's office, a tentative agreement had been reached. The twins would continue at Hogwarts, their special training would incorporate department resources but remain under Dumbledore's primary oversight, and they would have limited access to the Department of Mysteries during holidays for specialized research. Do you think we can trust them? Harry asked Wednesday as they descended the spiral staircase. Not entirely, she replied pragmatically. But this arrangement gives us what we need most, time to grow stronger, access to knowledge, and legal protection. And Sirius will be free. Yes. Wednesday's lips curved in that rare, slight smile. Our family is expanding. As they reached the bottom of the stairs, Harry felt a strange sensation, a vibration in his magical core, resonating with Wednesday's. Their magic was still adapting, still evolving as they grew closer. We should prepare for the next phase, Wednesday said, seemingly sensing his thoughts. The prophecy mentioned the Dark Lord. If Voldemort returns. We'll be ready, Harry finished confidently. Together, they walked through the castle corridors, students parting before them like water around stones. The Potter twins, once forcibly separated by conspiracy and fear, now united by blood and magic. The foundations were already beginning to shift. Chapter 3, Two Worlds, One Blood. The rest of the school year passed in a blur of classes, training, and political maneuvering. By June, Sirius Black had been officially exonerated, Peter Pettigrew was serving a life sentence in Azkaban, and the Potter twins had become the most fascinating enigma in the wizarding world. Look at this garbage, Ron tossed the Daily Prophet onto the Gryffindor table. They're calling you the Dual Destinies now. Harry glanced at the headline, Potter Twins, Dual Destinies to Reshape Magical Britain. The accompanying photo showed him and Wednesday walking across the Hogwarts grounds, a visible shimmer of magic between them that the camera had somehow captured. Still better than the Dark Duo, Harry muttered, remembering last week's Witch Weekly cover. At least this one doesn't suggest we're planning world domination. Aren't we? Wednesday appeared behind them, making Ron jump. Despite months of exposure, he still wasn't used to her silent approaches. I thought Thursdays were for world domination planning. Wednesdays are for hex development. Hermione snorted into her pumpkin juice. Your sister's developing a sense of humor, Harry. I'm not sure that's reassuring. It's not humor, Wednesday replied, sliding onto the bench beside Harry. It's an accurate recitation of our schedule. 3 Ravenclaw first-years passing behind her quickened their pace, eyes wide with alarm. She's joking, Harry called after them, then turned to Wednesday. "You're joking, right?" Wednesday's expression remained perfectly neutral, though Harry caught the faintest glimmer of amusement in her eyes. Their mental connection had strengthened over the months, allowing them to sense each other's emotions and occasionally share thoughts when in physical contact. "Professor Lupin wants to see us," she said instead of answering. "Something about summer arrangements." With the term ending in a week, the question of where the twins would spend their holiday had become increasingly pressing. Sirius was still setting up his new home after 12 years in prison. The Addams family had returned to America in April, though they maintained regular contact via enchanted mirrors. And the Dursleys were, as always, the absolute last resort. They found Lupin in his office, packing books into a large trunk. The full moon had passed 3 days ago, and he looked tired but content. "Ah, there you are," he greeted them warmly. Come in, come in." "Tea. Is it true you're leaving?" Harry asked, having heard rumors that the defense position was once again vacant. Lupin sighed. "News travels fast." "Yes, I've resigned." "Because you're a werewolf," Wednesday stated. "It wasn't a question." "Word of my condition has begun to spread among parents," Lupin confirmed. "Dumbledore could weather the complaints, but I prefer not to put him in that position." "That's ridiculous," Harry protested. "You're the best teacher we've had." "Thank you, Harry, but the decision is made." Lupin poured tea for them both. "Which brings me to why I wanted to see you. With my departure, your special training will need new oversight." Dumbledore mentioned department specialists, Wednesday recalled, frowning slightly. Despite the negotiated agreement, she remained deeply suspicious of any unspeakable involvement. In part, Lupin agreed. "But you'll also have a new primary instructor. Someone with experience in both traditional wizardry and alternative magical approaches." "Who?" Harry asked. The office door opened, and Sirius Black strode in, looking remarkably different from the gaunt escapee they'd met in the Shrieking Shack. His hair was neatly trimmed, his face filled out, and his robes were new and elegant. The haunted look in his eyes had faded, though not disappeared entirely. "Sorry I'm late," he announced. "Ministry paperwork is worse than Azkaban some days." "Sirius." Harry jumped up to embrace his godfather. "What are you doing here?" "Meeting my new students, apparently." Sirius grinned, returning the hug before nodding respectfully to Wednesday. "Dumbledore's appointed me your summer instructor. Temporary teaching license and everything. You're qualified to teach combined magic?" Wednesday asked skeptically. "The Black family library contains some of the oldest magical texts in Britain," Sirius replied, unfazed by her tone. "And I've spent the last month consulting with your adoptive parents and various specialists. I may not be an expert in Addams magic, but I know enough to guide you." "And where will this training take place?" Harry asked, excitement building. Training with Sirius meant not returning to the Dursleys. "That's the other news," Sirius's smile widened. "I've acquired a property. Unplottable location, extensive magical protections, large enough for training and, well, for a family." The word hung in the air between them. Family. Harry felt a lump form in his throat. "Both of us?" Wednesday asked, her voice uncharacteristically soft. "If you want," Sirius nodded. "The Addamses have given their permission for you to stay through July. In August, they've invited both of us to visit the family mansion." Harry looked to Wednesday, hardly daring to hope. To his surprise, he saw something like vulnerability flash across her usually impassive face. "That would be acceptable," she said finally. Sirius barked a laugh. High praise indeed from an Addams. Plans were quickly finalized. They would travel to Sirius's new home, a property called Windward Crest on the Cornwall coast, directly after term ended. Department specialists would visit weekly to monitor their progress and provide specific guidance, but day-to-day training would be Sirius's responsibility. One more thing, Lupin said as they prepared to leave. This arrived for you today, Harry. He handed over a letter bearing the ministry seal. Harry opened it curiously. It's from the Department of Mysteries, he explained to Wednesday. They've scheduled our first visit to the Hall of Records for next week. Convenient timing, Wednesday observed. What specifically do they want us to see? Harry scanned the letter. Something about our mother's research. Apparently she worked with the department briefly before going into hiding. Interesting. Wednesday's eyes gleamed with that intense focus Harry had come to recognize as her investigative mode. What exactly was our mother researching that interested the Department of Mysteries? I guess we'll find out, Harry replied, equally curious. Each new revelation about their parents brought them closer to understanding why they had been separated, why Lily Potter had made the decisions she had. As they left Lupin's office, Harry couldn't help feeling that despite the prophecy's ominous nature, despite the threat still looming, his life had taken a turn for the better. He had a godfather who wanted him. He had a sister who, in her own unique way, cared for him. He had a purpose beyond just surviving until the next school year. For once, summer held promise instead of dread. Windward Crest turned out to be a sprawling stone manor perched on a cliff overlooking the sea. Originally a Black family property, it had stood empty for decades until Sirius reclaimed it after his exoneration. The main house is 17th century, Sirius explained as they approached through gardens gone wild with magical and mundane plants. But the foundations are much older. There's a natural magical confluence here, a meeting of ley lines that amplifies certain types of spell work. Perfect for our training, Wednesday noted, eyeing the property with approval. The magical resonance will help stabilize our combined casting. The house itself was a curious blend of wizarding and Muggle architecture, with turrets and towers alongside large windows and spacious balconies. Unlike Grimmauld Place, Sirius's childhood home, Windward Crest felt open and airy, designed to capture the sea breeze and sunlight. I've prepared rooms for each of you, Sirius led them inside. Harry, you're in the east wing with the morning sun. Wednesday, I thought you might prefer the north tower. It has atmosphere. Wednesday raised an eyebrow. Atmosphere? Possibly a ghost or two, Sirius admitted with a grin. Minor hauntings, nothing too disruptive. The house elves refused to clean up there. Perfect, Wednesday said with the closest thing to enthusiasm Harry had ever heard from her. Their rooms were spacious and personalized. Harry's featured Quidditch posters, a writing desk stocked with parchment and quills, and a window seat overlooking the gardens. Wednesday's tower room was dark and gothic, with heavy velvet curtains, antique furniture, and what appeared to be genuine medieval weaponry mounted on the walls. I consulted your mother, Morticia, on the decor, Sirius explained when Wednesday examined a particularly wicked-looking battle axe. She was very specific about the proper ambience for an Addams. It's suitable, Wednesday approved, running her finger along the axe's blade and nodding with satisfaction when it drew blood. They spent the first few days settling in and exploring the property. Besides the main house, there was a converted carriage house that Sirius had transformed into a training space, several gardens in various states of wildness, and a path down to a private cove where the waves crashed against dark rocks. This place feels right, Harry told Wednesday as they walked the cliff path on their third morning. Like it was waiting for us. The house has good bones, she agreed. And the magical convergence is stronger than Sirius realized. Feel it? Harry concentrated, sensing the currents of energy flowing beneath them like underground rivers. Since beginning their training, his magical sensitivity had increased dramatically. It's not just the ley lines, he realized. There's something else. Something older. Blood magic, Wednesday confirmed. This land knows the Black family. It recognizes Sirius as its rightful owner, and through him, us as its wards. Harry grinned. Never thought I'd be grateful for pureblood family magic. All magic has its uses, Wednesday replied pragmatically. Even the darkest kinds. Their training began in earnest the following day. Sirius proved to be a surprisingly effective teacher, combining the Black family's deep magical knowledge with a creative approach that suited the twins' unique abilities. The key to combined casting isn't just synchronized spells, he explained during their first session. It's unified intent with complementary execution. You're not doubling the same spell, you're creating something new from two perspectives. They practiced with increasingly complex magic, from advanced defensive charms to transfiguration to magical construction, literally building structures with combined magic that neither could create alone. Your power comes from opposition in balance, Sirius noted as they successfully created a bridge of pure magic across the training room. Harry channels raw power outward, Wednesday shapes and directs it with precision. Together, you're greater than the sum of your parts. Their connection deepened with each session. What had begun as occasional emotional bleed-through evolved into something more profound. They could now maintain awareness of each other's location anywhere on the property, sense distress or excitement, and even share brief impressions without physical contact. It's not true telepathy, Wednesday clarified when Harry described it to Sirius. More like, magical empathy. Our cores are harmonizing. The department specialists arrived as scheduled, a rotating team of 3 unspeakables who recorded measurements, asked countless questions, and occasionally offered technical guidance. None were particularly friendly, but they maintained professional courtesy, clearly under orders to keep the twins cooperative. They're still afraid of us, Harry observed after one particularly intense session where they demonstrated their shadow Patronus. The unspeakable monitoring them had visibly paled when the creature materialized. Good, Wednesday replied. Fear ensures respect. Their visit to the Department of Mysteries came in the second week of July. Sirius accompanied them to the Ministry, where they were met by Broderick Bode and escorted to the mysterious 9th level. Few outsiders ever see these halls, Bode told them as they passed through a plain black door into a circular room with identical doors all around. The department's work requires absolute secrecy. Yet you're showing us, Wednesday noted. A calculated decision, Bode admitted. We believe transparency, controlled transparency, will foster cooperation rather than confrontation. He led them through a door that opened into a vast library-like space, with towering shelves holding thousands of scrolls, books, and mysterious artifacts. The Hall of Records, Bode announced. Every significant magical research project conducted by or with the department is documented here. Including your mother's work. He directed them to a reading area where several thick files waited on a table. Lily Evans Potter, Harry read from the top file, running his fingers over his mother's name. She worked with us briefly during the war, Bode explained. A research fellowship focused on protective magic. She was brilliant, innovative in ways that sometimes concerned her supervisors. Concerned how? Wednesday asked sharply. She pushed boundaries, Bode said carefully. Explored connections between traditional protective spells and older, blood-based protections. Her work led directly to the sacrifice protection that saved Harry from the killing curse. And me? Wednesday's dark eyes fixed on Bode. Why wasn't I protected the same way? Bode hesitated. That's what we hoped you might help us understand. According to our records, Lily's protection should have extended to both children. Yet you were removed from the cottage before Voldemort's attack, through means we still don't fully comprehend. Harry exchanged glances with Wednesday. This didn't align with what they'd learned from Pettigrew about Crowley's involvement. You're saying the department didn't arrange her removal? Harry asked skeptically. Not officially, Bode confirmed. Though we've discovered evidence that Crowley was operating independently, possibly with Pettigrew's assistance. What we don't know is whether your mother was aware of or even complicit in their plan. You think our mother worked with Crowley willingly? Harry couldn't keep the disbelief from his voice. We think she knew more about the prophecy's implications than anyone realized, Bode replied. These files contain her research notes, personal correspondence, and department evaluations. They may provide answers. He left them to read, positioning himself near the door, giving them privacy while ensuring they remained in the Hall of Records. The twins dove into the files, quickly developing a system where Harry read the correspondence while Wednesday tackled the denser research notes. "Listen to this," Harry said after 20 minutes of reading. In a letter to Professor Flitwick, she mentions researching parallel protective matrices for magical twins. She was specifically working on how to protect us both. Wednesday nodded. Her research aligns with that. She was developing a modified Fidelius charm that would protect separated subjects through linked blood magic. She tapped a complex diagram. This isn't standard department research. This is Addams magic integrated with conventional protective charms. So she knew about the Addams connection, Harry realized. But how? They continued searching, piecing together fragments of information from different sources. A pattern began to emerge. In the months before their birth, Lily had discovered her distant Addams ancestry and began corresponding with Morticia. After the prophecy was made, her research shifted dramatically toward protective magic that could work across great distances. Here, Wednesday held up a page of notes written in their mother's hand. A reference to Operation Gemini, a contingency plan to separate the twins if containment fails. And a note about Crowley providing ministry resources. So she was working with him, Harry said, disappointment evident in his voice. Not necessarily as we assumed, Wednesday countered. Look at this timeline. Mother established contact with the Addamses first, then approached Crowley with a proposal. She was driving the plan, not him. They found more evidence supporting this theory. Lily had maneuvered Crowley into position, using his fear of the prophecy to gain department resources while keeping her true intentions hidden. She had established the connection to the Addams family independently, researching the perfect environment for a child with dual magical heritage. She wasn't separating us out of fear, Harry realized as the picture became clearer. She was creating a failsafe. If Voldemort found them, at least one of us would survive with access to both magical traditions. A contingency she hoped would never be necessary, Wednesday agreed. But planned for nonetheless. The final piece came in a sealed letter at the bottom of the last file, marked, for the twins, when they are ready. Bode confirmed it had been left with the department by Lily herself, with instructions to deliver it only when Harry and Wednesday were reunited. With trembling hands, Harry broke the seal. Wednesday moved beside him, her shoulder touching his as they read together. My darling children, if you're reading this, then you found each other despite the barriers placed between you. I hope this means you're both grown and safe, though I fear the circumstances that might have brought you together. First, know that separating you was the hardest decision your father and I ever made. The prophecy spoke of terrible danger, both from Voldemort and from those who would fear or exploit your combined power. We believed keeping you together was too dangerous, not just for you, but for each other. Harry, we kept you with us because Voldemort had already marked you as his target. We hoped that by sending Wednesday away, at least one of you would remain hidden from his reach. Wednesday, we chose the Addams family for you because of our distant blood connection and because they practiced the magic that flows in our veins, magic I only discovered in myself after extensive research. They would raise you to embrace the power that Wizarding Britain fears and suppresses. The prophecy speaks of bridges between worlds divided by time and intent. I believe this refers to the schism that occurred centuries ago between conventional wizardry and the older practices the Addams family preserves. Together, you embody both traditions, both approaches to magic. Crowley helped implement our plan, though his motives were less pure than he claimed. Watch him carefully. He believes your combined power threatens the wizarding world's secrecy and separation. He's not entirely wrong, your magic could indeed change everything, but change isn't inherently destruction. If you found each other, then the time has come for choices. The prophecy's fulfillment isn't predetermined, it depends on what you do with your shared gifts. You can heal the divide between magical traditions or deepen it. You can use your power to protect or to remake. Know that whatever you choose, your father and I love you both beyond measure. We had so little time with you together, but those months were the happiest of our lives. All my love, Mum. Harry felt tears burning his eyes. Beside him, Wednesday remained outwardly stoic, but through their connection, he sensed her turbulent emotions, grief, validation, and a fierce determination. She planned it all, Harry said softly. She knew what might happen and created a way for at least one of us to survive. And ensured we'd have access to both magical traditions, Wednesday added. She was cleverer than anyone realized. They sat in silence for several minutes, processing this revelation. Their mother hadn't been a victim of circumstances or others' manipulations, she had orchestrated events to give her children the best chance of survival and eventual reunion. Does this change anything? Harry finally asked. About what we do now? Wednesday considered the question. It confirms our purpose. Mother believed our combined magic could heal the divide between magical traditions. That aligns with the prophecy. And with what we've been learning to do, Harry agreed. They gathered the most relevant documents to take with them, then signaled to Bode that they were finished. As they followed him back through the department's mysterious corridors, Harry felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Their mother had loved them, had fought to protect them in the only way she could. Whatever came next, they would face it knowing the truth of their origin. The training intensified through July. With their new understanding of Lily's intentions, Harry and Wednesday focused on integrating their different magical approaches rather than simply combining them. It's like learning a new language, Sirius observed as they practiced. Not just speaking together, but creating a third language that incorporates elements of both. Their progress was remarkable. Spells that had once required both twins to cast simultaneously could now be initiated by one and completed by the other. They developed shorthand incantations that blended conventional Latin-based spells with the Addams family's more esoteric invocations. Expecto mortem, Wednesday intoned, while Harry simultaneously cast Revelio Vitae. The resulting spell revealed hidden life forms while also showing paths taken by the recently deceased, a tracking magic unlike anything in standard textbooks. Brilliant, Sirius breathed, watching ghostly footprints appear alongside the vibrant auras of nearby creatures. You've essentially created a new branch of magical detection. The department representatives documented everything, though Harry noticed their reports seemed to downplay the more revolutionary aspects of the twins' work. Whether this was to avoid alarming their superiors or to keep certain discoveries within the department remained unclear. They're still hiding something, Wednesday noted after one such session. Their questions are too specific, too focused on applications that involve magical barriers and containment. You think they're still worried about the statute of secrecy? Harry asked. Or something related to it, she agreed. Something about our magic frightens them. Their suspicions deepened when Bode himself attended their next session, bringing with him a curious magical device, a sphere of swirling silver mist contained within crystal. A temporal resonator, he explained. It allows us to observe how magical effects propagate through time. You mean it shows the future? Harry asked. Not precisely, Bode corrected. It shows potential temporal ripples from present actions. Possibilities, not certainties. He asked them to perform their most powerful combined spell near the device. After some discussion, they settled on a modified version of their Shadow Patronus, which had evolved into something they called the Sentinel, a guardian construct that could operate independently of their direct control. The moment they completed the casting, the silver mist in the resonator turned black, then shattered its crystal containment. Bode leapt back in alarm as tendrils of temporal energy whipped through the training room. Containment breach, he shouted, casting several rapid spells to suppress the escaping mist. Too late. The temporal energy engulfed the twins, and for one disorienting moment, Harry saw, felt, a cascade of potential futures. Visions flashed through his mind, magical barriers falling worldwide, muggles and wizards in open conflict, a new society emerging from chaos, Wednesday and himself standing before a transformed Wizengamot, Voldemort returning and then falling to their combined power. As quickly as it came, the vision faded. The temporal mist dissipated, leaving the room in disarray and Bode looking shaken. What was that? Harry demanded, steadying himself against a wall. Temporal feedback, Bode replied, his usual composure broken. Your magic, it doesn't just affect the present. It creates ripples through time itself. You knew this would happen, Wednesday accused, eyes narrowing. This wasn't a routine test. Bode didn't deny it. We suspected. The department has been monitoring temporal anomalies centered around you both since your reunion. Your combined magic doesn't just bridge magical traditions, it affects the very fabric of magical reality. That's what Crowley feared, Harry realized. Not just the exposure of the magical world, but fundamental changes to how magic works. And why the department wanted us separated as children, Wednesday added. Our magic literally changes the rules. Bode nodded reluctantly. The prophecy speaks of overturning foundations. We're beginning to understand just how literal that might be. The incident marked a turning point in their relationship with the department. Bode became more forthcoming, sharing research that had previously been classified, studies on magical convergence points, ancient traditions predating the International Statute of Secrecy, and theoretical models for integrating different magical systems. They're preparing for something, Sirius observed after reading through the latest batch of materials Bode had provided. Trying to get ahead of changes they see as inevitable. With us as either catalysts or controllers, Wednesday noted shrewdly. Or both, Harry suggested. Their training adapted to incorporate this new understanding. Rather than simply developing powerful combined spells, they focused on magic that bridged traditions, that healed rather than overwhelmed. Lily's research provided crucial insights, showing how she had begun the process of integration that they were now continuing. As July ended, they prepared for their promised visit to the Addams mansion. The department had initially objected, concerned about the twins traveling beyond their monitoring, but Sirius had overruled them, reminding everyone that their agreement specified family connections would be maintained. Besides, he'd added with a wolfish grin, I'm curious to see this legendary mansion. Morticia has promised me a tour of the family crypt. The night before their departure, Harry found Wednesday on the cliff path, watching the moon rise over the ocean. In the silvery light, she looked more like their mother than ever, though with their father's coloring. Nervous about going home, he asked, joining her by the railing. The mansion was never home in the sentimental sense, she replied. It was where I lived, where I learned. But home. She hesitated, unusual for her. Home has become more complicated. Harry understood. For both of them, the concept of home had shifted. Hogwarts, Windward Crest, the Addams mansion, places that held parts of who they were, but no single location that contained their whole selves. We carry it with us, he suggested. Pieces of both worlds. Wednesday nodded, her expression softening slightly in the moonlight. Mother said something similar once. That Addamses are never truly at home in the conventional world, so we make our home in the shadows between worlds. Sounds about right for us too, Harry smiled. They stood in companionable silence, watching the waves crash against the rocks below. Through their connection, Harry felt Wednesday's usual sharp focus mellow into something almost peaceful. The moment was shattered by a searing pain in Harry's scar. He gasped, clutching his forehead as images flooded his mind, a decrepit house, a massive snake, a grotesque homunculus in a chair, and a circle of robed figures. Harry. Wednesday gripped his arm, steadying him. What is it? Voldemort, he choked out. He's done something. A ritual. He's getting stronger. Wednesday's eyes widened slightly. You can see him. Through the scar connection. Harry nodded, the pain beginning to recede. It's happened before, but never this clear. He's gathering followers. Planning something. Without hesitation, Wednesday placed her hand over his scar. The connection between them flared, and suddenly they were both seeing the vision, but with a clarity and control Harry had never experienced before. The grotesque form in the chair was speaking, "Faithful have returned. Others will be punished for their desertion. But first, we must deal with the greatest threat, the Potter twins." "My lord," a masked Death Eater knelt before him, "we have located them. They're at the Black property on the Cornwall coast." "Excellent," the malformed creature rasped. "We attack at dawn." The vision faded as Wednesday removed her hand. They stared at each other, the implications clear. "We need to warn Sirius," Harry said urgently. They ran back to the house, finding Sirius in the library with a glass of fire whiskey and a book on advanced transfiguration. "Voldemort's back," Harry blurted without preamble. "Or getting there. And he knows where we are. They're planning to attack at dawn." To his credit, Sirius didn't waste time with questions. He set down his glass, drew his wand, and moved immediately to the nearest window, reinforcing the magical protections with complex spells. "The wards will hold for a while, but not indefinitely against a determined attack," he said tersely. "We need to alert Dumbledore and decide whether to evacuate or make a stand. If we leave, they'll just track us to our next location," Wednesday pointed out. "The logical option is to use this opportunity." "Use it how?" Sirius asked, already sending a Patronus message to Dumbledore. "As bait," she replied. "We know they're coming. We can prepare a proper reception." Harry nodded in agreement. "The house is on a confluence of ley lines. We can use that. Set up our own ritual, something that will turn their attack against them." Sirius looked between them, a slow smile spreading across his face. "James would be so proud right now. And Lily would be terrified and impressed in equal measure." He squared his shoulders. "All right. We have about 8 hours. Let's make them count." They worked through the night, setting up a complex web of defensive and reactive magic throughout the property. Sirius focused on conventional protective enchantments, reinforcing the existing wards and adding nasty surprises for anyone who breached them. The twins implemented a more ambitious plan, using their combined magic to create a responsive matrix that would draw power from any offensive magic directed at the house. "It's like a magical capacitor," Harry explained as they laid the final connections. "It stores the energy of their attacks and allows us to redirect it." An adaptation of the protective magic Mother was researching, Wednesday added, drawing complicated runes at key junction points. With elements of Addams' counter curses. Dumbledore arrived just before dawn, accompanied by several Order members including Lupin, McGonagall, and to Harry's surprise, Snape. "Your warning was most timely," the headmaster told them after inspecting their preparations. "We've been tracking signs of Voldemort's return for several weeks, but had no confirmation until now." "How is he back?" Harry asked. "I saw him die, or something like it, in our first year." "He never truly died," Dumbledore explained gravely. "The night he attacked your family, his soul was torn from his body but remained tethered to this world through dark magic. What you're seeing is his attempt to regain physical form." "A homunculus," Wednesday nodded. "A temporary vessel to house his fragmented soul while he prepares a more permanent restoration." Dumbledore looked at her with new respect. "Precisely. You are well versed in obscure magic, Miss Addams." "Grandmama's bedtime stories were unconventional," she replied drily. As the sky began to lighten, they took positions throughout the house. Order members guarded key entry points, while Dumbledore established a command position in the central hall where he could respond to breaches anywhere in the property. Harry and Wednesday, against considerable protest, insisted on positioning themselves in the converted carriage house where they'd been training. It was the most magically charged location on the property and the focal point of their defensive matrix. "They'll come for us specifically," Harry argued. "If we're not visible targets, they'll tear the whole house apart looking for us." "Besides," Wednesday added, "our combined magic is the most effective weapon we have. We need to be where we can use it optimally." Reluctantly, Sirius and Dumbledore agreed, though they stationed Lupin nearby as additional protection. The attack came with the first rays of sunrise. The wards flared with golden light as they came under assault, dozens of dark-robed figures materializing at the property boundaries. Death Eaters, more than they'd anticipated. He's not with them, Harry noted, reaching through his scar connection. Voldemort's still too weak to lead the attack personally. Good, Wednesday replied. That improves our odds considerably. The first wave of attackers hit the outer wards with blasting curses, creating a spectacular light show but making little progress. The second wave was more strategic, working methodically to identify and target weak points in the defensive perimeter. They have a ward breaker, Lupin called from his position by the window. Specialized team working on the southeast corner. The twins monitored their matrix, watching as it absorbed the magical energy from each attack. The glowing lines connecting the rune points grew brighter with each spell that struck the wards. Capacity at 60%, Wednesday reported. We need more power before we can activate the countermeasure. A massive explosion rocked the property as the Death Eaters breached the outer wards. Through the windows, they could see Order members engaging in direct combat, multicolored spells lighting up the dawn sky. Capacity at 75%, Harry noted. Almost there. The fighting intensified. Sirius and McGonagall were dueling 3 Death Eaters near the main house, while Dumbledore single-handedly contained a larger group trying to approach from the cliff path. Snape was nowhere to be seen. A section of the garden wall collapsed under concentrated spell fire, opening a direct path to the carriage house. 3 Death Eaters rushed toward them, firing curses that Lupin deflected while retreating inside. We've got company, he warned, taking position in front of the twins. Perfect, Wednesday's dark eyes gleamed. Direct attacks will charge the Matrix faster. The door burst open. Lucius Malfoy led 2 masked Death Eaters into the carriage house, his pale face twisted with triumph. The Potter twins, he sneered. My master will be pleased when I deliver you. You'll have to catch us first, Harry replied, buying time as the Matrix's capacity climbed toward 100%. Such bravado, Malfoy laughed coldly. Your parents had the same misplaced confidence before the Dark Lord eliminated them. Did they also have this? Wednesday asked, and with a flick of her wrist, activated the Matrix. The effect was immediate and devastating. Every rune in the carriage house blazed with blinding light as the stored magical energy surged through the connections. The Death Eaters were frozen in place, caught in a web of power drawn from their own attacks. Now, Harry nodded to Wednesday. Together, they cast the final spell, not a conventional hex or curse, but a hybrid creation based on Lily's research and Addams' family magic. A spell designed specifically to counter dark marks. Vinculum Revelar et Rescindera, they called in perfect unison. The magic flowed from them in visible waves, rippling outward through the Matrix and beyond. Wherever it touched a Death Eater, their dark mark flared with painful light, the magical connection to Voldemort momentarily exposed and vulnerable. Malfoy screamed, clutching his arm as his dark mark seemed to writhe beneath his skin. Throughout the property, similar cries rang out as Death Eaters experienced the same effect. Phase 2, Wednesday said calmly, despite the magical maelstrom surrounding them. They clasped hands, combining their power directly rather than through the Matrix. This was the riskiest part of their plan, a direct assault on the magical bond linking Voldemort to his followers. Nexus Interruptus Maxima. The surge of power that followed was unlike anything Harry had experienced. It felt like their very magical cores were being channeled outward, following the paths revealed by their first spell to strike at the hub of the Darkmark network, Voldemort himself. Through his scar connection, Harry felt Voldemort's shock and rage as the spell reached him. The homunculus body convulsed, the fragile magical constructs holding it together coming under assault from an unexpected direction. He's fighting back, Harry gasped, feeling Voldemort pushing through the connection, trying to turn it against them. Let him, Wednesday tightened her grip. The connection goes both ways. She was right. As Voldemort tried to force his way through Harry's scar, he exposed himself to their combined power. Wednesday's Addams magic, unfamiliar to him, flowed through the breach in his defenses. The result was catastrophic, for Voldemort. His temporary body couldn't withstand the magical backlash. Through the fading connection, Harry witnessed it disintegrating, the homunculus collapsing into a grotesque puddle as Voldemort's essence was once again violently separated from physical form. In the carriage house, the immediate effect was equally dramatic. Every Death Eater on the property collapsed simultaneously, their dark marks burning black before fading to dull gray. Malfoy and his companions lay unconscious at their feet, the magical connection that empowered them temporarily severed. "We did it," Harry panted, feeling drained but triumphant. "We disrupted his return." Temporarily, Wednesday cautioned, though she too looked satisfied. "We've bought time, not victory." Lupin stared at them in amazement. "That was... I don't even have words for what that was." "Prophecy in action," came Dumbledore's voice from the doorway. The headmaster surveyed the scene with a mixture of awe and concern. "You've demonstrated power the Dark Lord knows not, indeed." Order members were rounding up the incapacitated Death Eaters, binding them with magical restraints. Sirius pushed past Dumbledore to check on the twins. "Are you both all right?" he demanded, looking them over for injuries. "That was the most reckless, brilliant thing I've ever seen, and I was friends with your father." "We're fine," Harry assured him, though he felt like he could sleep for a week. "Just magically exhausted." "What exactly did you do to them?" Sirius asked, nudging Malfoy with his foot. "We temporarily severed the magical connection between Voldemort and his followers," Wednesday explained. "The dark mark is essentially a parasitic bond. We disrupted it at the source." "You attacked Voldemort directly through the mark network?" Dumbledore looked stunned. "That's theoretically possible but practically unprecedented," Lupin finished. "Like everything else these two do together. The cleanup took hours. Ministry Aurors arrived to take custody of the captured Death Eaters, though Harry noticed several of the more influential ones like Malfoy were already weaving stories of being under the Imperius curse. "Political connections trump justice," Wednesday observed cynically as they watched from the house. "Some aspects of the magical world need significant reform." "That's an understatement," Harry agreed. After giving statements to the Aurors, they were finally left in peace. The house had suffered minimal damage thanks to their preparation, though the magical matrix would need to be dismantled carefully over the coming days. "What happens now?" Harry asked as they gathered in the library that evening. "Voldemort's setback is temporary. He'll try again. And we'll be ready," Sirius said firmly. "Today proved that together, you're a force to be reckoned with." "More than that," Dumbledore added thoughtfully. "Today demonstrated the potential of integrated magical traditions. What you achieved couldn't have been done with conventional magic alone, nor with pure Addams techniques. It required both, working in harmony." Like the prophecy said, Harry realized. Bridge worlds divided by time and intent. "Your mother would be proud," Dumbledore smiled gently. "She began this work, researching how different magical traditions could complement each other. You're continuing her legacy. And changing the foundations of magical society in the process," Wednesday added. "The Department of Mysteries wasn't wrong about that." Dumbledore nodded. "Change is coming, whether the wizarding world is ready or not. The question is whether that change will be guided or chaotic." "We choose guided," Harry said firmly, looking to Wednesday for confirmation. She nodded in agreement. "Then we have much work to do," Dumbledore concluded. "But perhaps it can wait until after your visit to the Addams mansion. Family connections should not be neglected, especially in times of conflict." Despite the attack and its aftermath, they maintained their plans to visit America. The department, now keenly aware of the twins' effectiveness against Voldemort, offered additional security for the journey, which Sirius accepted with barely concealed amusement. "As if the Addams family needs help with security," he chuckled. "Their mansion probably eats intruders for breakfast." "Literally." The Addams mansion loomed against the stormy sky, its Gothic towers and crumbling facade exactly as Harry had seen in Wednesday's memories. Lightning flashed dramatically as their car crunched up the gravel driveway. "Home sweet home," Wednesday said, with what might have been nostalgia or irony. The front door creaked open before they reached it, revealing Lurch, the family's towering butler. "Welcome," he groaned, stepping aside to admit them. "Lurch, old man." Gomez Addams bounded into the foyer, resplendent in a pinstriped suit. "Marvelous to see you. And Wednesday, cara mia. You're looking positively morbid." He embraced his daughter, who allowed it with surprising tolerance. Harry noticed she even patted Gomez's back briefly before extracting herself. "Father," she nodded. "The house looks well decomposed. We added a new wing of decay just last month," Gomez beamed proudly. "And you must be Harry. The resemblance is remarkable. Come in, come in." The welcome was chaotic but warm. Morticia glided in to embrace Wednesday and greet Harry with dignified affection. Pugsley attempted to blow them up with a homemade explosive, apparently a traditional Addams welcome. Uncle Fester demonstrated his ability to light a bulb in his mouth, and Grandmama presented them with a bubbling cauldron of what she called welcome stew, but smelled suspiciously like boiled nightshade. Sirius fit in immediately, his aristocratic background and mischievous nature appealing to the Addams sensibilities. By dinner, he and Gomez were swapping stories of pranks and duels while Morticia and Grandmama discussed the finer points of poisonous fungi cultivation. "Your family is..." Harry searched for the right word as Wednesday showed him around the mansion later that evening. "Eccentric," she suggested. "Wonderful," Harry corrected. "They're completely themselves. No pretense, no concern about fitting in. It's the Addams way," Wednesday acknowledged. "We embraced the macabre, the unusual, the rejected. It served the family well for centuries. The mansion was a marvel of magical architecture, rooms that defied conventional physics, corridors that seemed to rearrange themselves, portraits that not only moved but occasionally stepped out of their frames to join conversations. Unlike Hogwarts, which used magic to create comfort and convenience, the Addams mansion used it to create atmosphere and unpredictability. This is the ancestral ritual space. Wednesday led Harry into a circular room deep beneath the house. Ancient symbols covered the walls and floor, some familiar from their recent Matrix work, others completely alien. The magical confluence here rivals the one at Windward Crest. Perfect for training, Harry noted. Is this where you learned Addams magic? Among other places, she confirmed. Mother began teaching me simple incantations when I was 3. By 7, I could commune with ancestral spirits. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of training, exploration, and unexpected family bonding. The Addamses embraced Harry completely, treating him as one of their own while respecting his distinct personality. Different doesn't mean wrong, Morticia told him during a lesson on poisonous plant propagation. The wizarding world could learn much from that philosophy. They continued developing their combined magic, now incorporating more elements from both traditions. The Addams grimoires contained spells and rituals dating back centuries, many predating the International Statute of Secrecy and the resulting division of magical practices. These were standard magic once, Gomez explained, showing them a particularly ancient text. Before the separation. Before magic became segregated into acceptable and dark categories. The artificial division weakened both sides, Morticia added. Conventional wizardry gained structure but lost power. Traditional practices retained power but became isolated and fragmentary. And we bridged that gap, Harry said, understanding dawning. That's what the prophecy means about overturning foundations. Not destroying the wizarding world, but healing the division within it. Which certain parties would find equally threatening, Wednesday noted. The ministry's power structure depends on controlled, regulated magic. Their training took on new purpose with this understanding. Rather than simply developing powerful combined spells, they focused on integration techniques, ways to make conventional and traditional magic work together harmoniously. The results were remarkable. They created hybrid charms that incorporated intent-based Addams principles with precise wand work. They developed potions that responded to the brewer's bloodline while maintaining standardized effects. They even found ways to modify standard protective enchantments to draw power from familial connections. "This is revolutionary," Sirius observed after they successfully created a modified Fidelius charm that didn't require a secret keeper, instead anchoring its protection in blood-linked trustees. "You're not just combining magic, you're evolving it." News from Britain remained concerning. Despite the capture of several Death Eaters during the attack on Windward Crest, most had already been released, their claims of imperious influence accepted by a ministry eager to avoid acknowledging Voldemort's potential return. "Politics as usual," Sirius grimaced after reading Lupin's latest letter. "Fudge is burying his head in the sand, and the Prophet is helping him do it." "Let them," Wednesday said pragmatically. "Their denial gives us time to prepare." And prepare they did. By the end of August, they had developed a comprehensive approach to their unique magic, techniques that could be taught to others, spells that could be shared with both conventional wizards and traditional practitioners. "The foundations of a new magical understanding," Dumbledore commented when they demonstrated their progress via Enchanted Mirror. "Precisely what your mother hoped to achieve." Their final night at the mansion, Gomez and Morticia held a family council in the Grand Hall, with portraits of Addams' ancestors temporarily relocated to witness the proceedings. "The Addams family has existed at the margins of magical society for centuries," Gomez began with uncharacteristic solemnity. "We have preserved traditions others abandoned, practiced magic others feared. But always, we have maintained our separation." "The time for separation is ending," Morticia continued. "The prophecy speaks of bridges between worlds. Wednesday and Harry embody that connection. As the Potter twins return to Hogwarts, Gomez proclaimed, they go with the full support and recognition of the Addams family. The resources of our line are at their disposal. And should Voldemort or the Ministry threaten them, Morticia added with a dangerous smile, they will learn why the Addams name has inspired fear for 15 generations. It was a formal declaration of alliance, the Addams family officially acknowledging their connection to the wizarding world through Harry and Wednesday. The gathered ancestors murmured approval from their frames, some applauding, others cackling ominously. "One more thing," Grandmama stepped forward, carrying a small wooden box. "A gift for both of you. From the family vaults." Inside the box lay 2 identical silver pendants, each bearing the combined symbols of the Potter and Addams lineages, a stag and phoenix intertwined with a raven and sword. "Blood of 2 worlds," Grandmama explained as they lifted the pendants. "Wear them always. They'll strengthen your connection and warn of danger." As Harry fastened his around his neck, he felt an immediate resonance with Wednesday's matching pendant. Their already strong connection deepened further, becoming more stable, more natural. "Thank you," he said, genuinely moved by the acceptance this represented. "All of you. Family is everything," Gomez declared, clapping him on the shoulder. "And you, my boy, are family twice over, by blood and by choice." Their return to Hogwarts for 4th year brought new challenges. The announcement of the Triwizard Tournament created a buzz of excitement throughout the school, though Harry and Wednesday viewed it with justified suspicion. "A convenient way for someone to target you," Wednesday observed during the welcoming feast. "Dangerous tasks with plausible deniability for accidents." Harry nodded in agreement. "Voldemort's still out there, weakened but planning. This would be an opportunity." Their caution proved warranted when, despite not entering, Harry's name emerged from the Goblet of Fire as a 4th champion. The uproar was immediate, accusations of cheating, complaints about Hogwarts having 2 champions, suspicion that the famous Potter twins were seeking more attention. "I didn't put my name in," Harry insisted in Dumbledore's office, surrounded by angry school representatives and ministry officials. "The contract is binding," Barty Crouch declared with finality. "Mr. Potter must compete." "Then so must I," Wednesday stated, stepping forward. Impossible. Madame Maxime objected. The rules permit only one champion per school. Harry and I are magically linked, Wednesday explained coolly. Our cores are connected. Forcing him to compete alone would be like asking someone to duel with one arm and leg bound. Preposterous, Karkaroff sneered. A transparent attempt to gain advantage. Actually, Dumbledore interjected, Miss Addams raises a valid magical concern. The twin bond they've developed creates unique circumstances. A heated debate followed, with magical experts brought in to evaluate the twins' claim. Under controlled observation, they demonstrated how their magic intertwined, how separation beyond certain distances caused instability in both their cores. It appears Miss Addams is correct, Professor McGonagall concluded after the tests. Forcing Mr. Potter to compete without his sister's proximity would place him at severe magical disadvantage, possibly endangering his life. The compromise reached was unusual but workable. Harry would be the official champion, but Wednesday would be permitted to remain within supportive distance during tasks, though not actively participate. Someone wants you in this tournament badly, Sirius told them during an emergency mirror call. The question is who and why. The who seems obvious, Harry replied. Someone working for Voldemort. The why is more concerning, Wednesday added. After our disruption of his return attempt, Voldemort must know direct confrontation is risky. This suggests an alternative strategy. They prepared accordingly, training for potential threats while investigating the tournament itself. Their research revealed a history of champions being targeted by rivals or outside forces, sometimes with fatal results. The tournament tasks are highly publicized but minimally supervised, Wednesday noted as they reviewed historical accounts. Ideal conditions for an attack disguised as competition. The first task, facing dragons, confirmed their suspicions. Harry's Hungarian horntail was noticeably more aggressive than the other dragons, breaking its restraints and attacking with unusual ferocity. That wasn't normal dragon behavior, Charlie Weasley told them afterward. Something agitated it specifically toward Harry. Despite the enhanced danger, Harry completed the task successfully, using their combined practice to perform a complex distraction charm that confused the dragon's senses long enough for him to retrieve the golden egg. Well done, Dumbledore congratulated them privately. Though I suspect we've only seen the opening move in a longer game. He was right. As the second task approached, the twins found themselves under increasingly hostile scrutiny. Rita Skeeter published inflammatory articles suggesting their combined magic was unnatural and potentially dark. Ministry representatives appeared with greater frequency, observing their classes and questioning their professors. The Department of Mysteries isn't the only faction concerned about your influence, Lupin warned during a secure floor call. The traditionalist bloc sees your integration of different magical approaches as threatening to established hierarchies. Because it is, Wednesday replied bluntly. Their power depends on maintaining artificial divisions between magical traditions. The pressure intensified when they began sharing their techniques with trusted friends. Hermione proved especially adept at integrating theoretical approaches, while Neville showed surprising talent with earth-based magics that shared roots in both traditions. You're creating a movement, Sirius observed proudly. Just like your parents did with the Order, but centered on magical integration rather than resistance. The second task brought new dangers. While other champions had loved ones taken as underwater hostages, Harry found both Ron and Sirius imprisoned beneath the lake, a clear escalation targeting his support network. Someone's adapting their strategy, Wednesday noted after Harry successfully rescued both hostages. They're identifying your connections and targeting them specifically. The final task loomed as the culmination of the mysterious plot. Despite their vigilance, they couldn't identify the saboteur within Hogwarts, though suspicion fell on several individuals including the new defense professor, Alastor Moody, whose behavior sometimes struck them as inconsistent. His magical signature fluctuates, Wednesday observed after one particularly odd interaction. As if it's being suppressed and occasionally breaking through. Their breakthrough came unexpectedly through their blood-linked pendants. During a routine training session, Harry's pendant suddenly burned hot against his skin as Moody passed nearby. Blood recognition, Wednesday realized. The pendants are warning us of disguised kin. Careful investigation, involving the Marauder's map and discreet tracking charms, revealed the truth. Moody was actually Barty Crouch Jr., a Death Eater believed to have died in Azkaban years earlier. More disturbingly, he was directly related to the Blacks and thus distantly to the Potters, enough shared blood for the pendants to recognize the connection. The architect of the entire tournament plot, Dumbledore confirmed after they brought him their evidence and the real Moody was discovered imprisoned in his own trunk. And our link to Voldemort's current plans. Under Veritaserum, Crouch revealed the final phase. The Triwizard Cup had been transformed into a portkey designed to transport Harry to a remote graveyard where Voldemort planned to use his blood for a restoration ritual. The final task is tomorrow, Harry said grimly after hearing Crouch's confession. Not much time to prepare a counter-strategy. Perhaps, Dumbledore's eyes twinkled, we should give Voldemort exactly what he expects, with certain modifications. The plan they devised was audacious. Instead of preventing the portkey trap, they would allow it to activate, but with both twins touching the cup, creating a controlled opportunity to confront Voldemort on their terms. He expects Harry alone, weakened by the maze, Wednesday explained to a horrified Sirius. He'll face both of us, at full strength, prepared for his ritual. It's insanity, Sirius objected. Walking willingly into his trap. It's strategic, Harry countered. We know what's coming. He doesn't know what we're capable of together. With immense reluctance, Sirius and the Order members Dumbledore had called and agreed to the plan. They would be stationed nearby, ready to intervene once the twins activated their emergency portkey, a backup escape route disguised as a simple wristband. The maze itself proved less challenging than anticipated. With Crouch removed, the enhanced obstacles he had planned were absent, allowing Harry to reach the center relatively quickly. As arranged, Wednesday was permitted to join him at the Cup for safety monitoring, given their magical connection. Ready? Harry asked, hand poised above the gleaming trophy. Always, Wednesday replied, her calm demeanor belying the intensity of her focus. Together, they grasped the cup handles. The familiar hook-behind-the-navel sensation of portkey travel seized them, spiraling them away from Hogwarts and into Voldemort's trap. They landed hard in a dark graveyard, tombstones looming like silent sentinels in the moonlight. Without hesitation, they moved to a defensive position behind a large monument, wands ready. Potter has arrived, my lord, a sniveling voice called out. But he's not alone. The sister is with him. It matters not, a cold, high voice replied. 2 sacrifices instead of 1. How efficient. Voldemort emerged from the shadows, still in his temporary homunculus form, carried by Wormtail. Behind them, a massive cauldron bubbled with foul-smelling potion. Harry Potter, the grotesque figure addressed them. And the long-lost twin. How thoughtful of you to deliver yourselves together. We thought we'd save you the trouble of hunting us separately, Harry replied, playing for time as they assessed the situation. 5 Death Eaters stood in a semicircle behind Wormtail, wands drawn but holding position. Such bravery, Voldemort's lipless mouth curved in a parody of a smile. Just like your parents before they died begging for mercy. You seem confident for someone whose last body melted into goo, Wednesday remarked coolly. Our last encounter didn't end well for you. Anger flashed in the homunculus's red eyes. A temporary setback. Tonight, I rise again, stronger than before. And you too shall provide the means. He gestured to Wormtail, who stepped forward eagerly. The ritual requires blood of the enemy. With twin blood, my resurrection will be twice as powerful. Fascinating hypothesis, Wednesday commented, as if critiquing a student project. Flawed, but fascinating. You mock what you don't understand, child, Voldemort hissed. The oldest magics are built on blood and bone. Your mother discovered this too late to save herself. Actually, Harry countered, she understood it perfectly. Well enough to ensure her protection lived on in both of us. He glanced at Wednesday, their practiced signal. As one, they cast their first combined spell, not an attack, but a modified detection charm that revealed the magical currents flowing through the graveyard. Just as they'd suspected, the entire area was a ritual space, with the cauldron at its center. Lines of ancient power converged beneath the tombstones, creating a natural magical confluence similar to the ones at Windward Crest and the Addams mansion. You chose this location for its power, Wednesday observed. Not just for symbolic value. Voldemort looked momentarily surprised by their insight. The grave of my father, yes, but also a nexus of magical energy. Magic older than Hogwarts flows beneath this ground. Convenient, Harry nodded to Wednesday. For us as well. Before Voldemort could respond, they implemented the next phase of their plan. With synchronized movements, they drove their wands into the ground at their feet, activating the prepared spell they developed specifically for this confrontation. Tellus magia revelio et converto. The ground trembled as their magic spread outward, following the natural channels beneath the graveyard. The ritual lines Voldemort had prepared began to glow, but instead of the sickly green he had established, they shifted to a pulsing silver blue as the twins' magic overrode his preparations. What are you doing? Voldemort shrieked, sensing his ritual being subverted. Stop them. The Death Eaters surged forward, casting a barrage of curses that splashed harmlessly against the protective barrier formed by the activated ritual lines. You misunderstand ritual magic's fundamental nature, Wednesday explained, her voice clinically detached. It responds to the strongest intent channeled through blood connection. And we have the advantage of complementary magical signatures. And direct bloodline connection to this place, Harry added, revealing what they had discovered in their research. The Peverills are buried here, ancestors to both the Potters and the Gaunts. Your family and ours. We're distant cousins, Wednesday elaborated. Which means this family ground responds to our blood as readily as yours. More so, with two of us channeling together. Rage and fear battled in Voldemort's inhuman features as he felt control of the ritual slipping away. Wormtail. The emergency measures. Now. The rat-like man scurried to the cauldron, pulling a vial of dark liquid from his robes, backup blood, presumably collected earlier for just such a contingency. But before he could add it to the bubbling mixture, the ritual lines pulsed with blinding light. The twins had completed their countermeasure. Instead of stopping Voldemort's resurrection ritual, they had modified it, transformed its purpose from resurrection to containment. Blood of the enemy, freely given, Harry intoned, using Voldemort's own ritual language against him. Will bind your essence and prevent your rising, Wednesday completed. They each drew their ceremonial daggers, gifts from the Addams family vault, and made shallow cuts across their palms. As their blood dripped onto the ritual lines, the magic flared incandescent. Voldemort's homunculus body began to dissolve, not in destruction but in containment. The ritual lines pulled at his essence, drawing it toward the center where the cauldron had transformed into a crystalline prison. No. Voldemort howled as his form collapsed inward. I cannot be contained. I am Lord Voldemort. I am immortal. Immortal, perhaps, Wednesday acknowledged. But not free. The light reached its peak intensity, then collapsed inward with a thunderous implosion. When their vision cleared, the cauldron had transformed into a crystal sarcophagus, within which a shadowy form raged silently. It worked, Harry breathed, hardly believing their success. Phase 1 worked, Wednesday corrected. Containment achieved. But not permanent. She was right. Already, hairline cracks were appearing in the crystal surface as Voldemort's essence fought against its prison. We need to move quickly, Harry urged. They raised their wands again, preparing the second phase of their plan, a transfer spell that would relocate the contained essence to a more secure prison prepared by Dumbledore and the Department of Mysteries. Before they could complete it, however, chaos erupted. The Death Eaters, temporarily frozen by the ritual's power, recovered enough to attack the now weakened barrier around the twins. Simultaneously, the emergency response team led by Sirius and Lupin apparat into the graveyard, spells flying. In the confusion, Wormtail seized his opportunity. Transforming into his rat form, he scurried to the crystal sarcophagus and began gnawing at the weakening structure, his small teeth somehow affecting the magical construct. "Stop him!" Harry shouted, firing stunning spells that the nimble rat evaded. Wednesday, ever practical, conjured a predator, a spectral snake that lunged for the rat. But Wormtail was driven by desperate loyalty or fear. He continued his assault on the crystal until a small breach appeared. That was all Voldemort needed. A portion of his essence escaped through the crack, abandoning most of his power to flee rather than remain contained. The dark mist shot skyward, emitting an inhuman shriek of rage before vanishing into the night. The remaining Death Eaters, seeing their master flee and facing superior numbers as more Order members arrived, activated emergency port keys of their own, disappearing before they could be captured. Damn, Harry lowered his wand, staring at the damaged crystal where the majority of Voldemort's essence remained trapped but diminished. He got away. Not all of him, Wednesday observed. We've captured approximately 70% of his magical essence. He escaped with enough to maintain consciousness, but not enough to easily create another body. Sirius reached them, looking both relieved and concerned. "Are you both all right?" "We came as soon as the trackers showed the ritual activating." "We're fine," Harry assured him. "And we've got something to show for it." He gestured to the crystal sarcophagus, now secured with additional binding spells from the Order members. Within, the captured portion of Voldemort's essence continued to rage, but with noticeably less power than before. "Remarkable," Dumbledore approached, examining their handiwork with genuine amazement. "You've accomplished what many believed impossible, partial containment of a fractured soul." "Not permanent," Wednesday cautioned. "But sufficient to buy significant time." Dumbledore nodded in agreement. "Time we will use well. With this captured essence, we can track the remaining fragments, perhaps even discover how he achieved his form of immortality." The secured sarcophagus was transported to the Department of Mysteries, where the twins were surprised to find not just Bode waiting, but a full council of unspeakables, including several they'd never met before. "The balance has shifted," Bode told them as the essence was moved to a more permanent containment chamber. "What you've accomplished tonight has convinced many who were skeptical about your approach." "Skeptical about magical integration, you mean," Harry clarified. "Yes," Bode admitted. "The practical demonstration of its effectiveness against the greatest dark wizard of our time is compelling evidence." "Evidence that should be shared," Wednesday suggested pointedly. "In time," Bode hedged. "Some transitions must be gradual to avoid instability." They returned to Hogwarts to find the school in uproar. News of Crouch's impersonation of Moody had broken, and rumors about the twins' disappearance from the maze had spread like wildfire. The tournament officials were in disarray, uncertain how to proceed with the competition seemingly abandoned mid-task. Dumbledore calmed the situation with his usual diplomatic skill, announcing that the tournament had been compromised by outside interference and would be considered a draw among all champions. More importantly, he confirmed what the Ministry had been denying: Voldemort had attempted to return but had been thwarted through the combined efforts of Harry, Wednesday, and unnamed allies. The public reaction was mixed. Some hailed the twins as heroes yet again, while others expressed skepticism or fear about their growing power and influence. The Daily Prophet ran contradictory headlines daily, alternating between lauding their bravery and questioning their methods. "Public opinion is irrelevant," Wednesday dismissed when Hermione showed them a particularly nasty editorial. "Results matter. Voldemort is weakened, his support structure exposed. And we've proved what integrated magic can accomplish," Harry added, focusing on the positive. "More people are listening now." Indeed, interest in their approach had grown dramatically. Students from all houses approached them for instruction, fascinated by the possibilities of combining magical traditions. Even some teachers began incorporating elements of their techniques into lessons. A beginning, Dumbledore observed during their final meeting before summer break. The foundations are shifting, just as the prophecy foretold. Not fast enough, Wednesday countered. Institutional resistance remains strong. Change of this magnitude requires time, Dumbledore reminded them gently. You've accomplished more in 1 year than many magical reformers achieve in a lifetime. As the term ended and students prepared to depart, Harry and Wednesday found themselves at the center of a growing movement, not just against Voldemort, but for a new understanding of magic itself. Next year will be critical, Sirius told them as they boarded the Hogwarts Express. Voldemort will be desperate to regain what he's lost. The Ministry will try to reassert control. And your influence will continue to grow. We'll be ready, Harry promised, confidence born of experience rather than bravado. We always are, Wednesday added with her almost smile. They found a compartment with Ron, Hermione, and Neville, the core of their growing circle of allies. As the train pulled away from Hogsmeade Station, Harry gazed out at the Scottish Highlands, reflecting on how much had changed since that fateful meeting on platform 9 3/4 less than a year ago. He'd discovered a twin sister, learned the truth about his parents' deaths, helped capture a significant portion of Voldemort's essence, and begun changing the very nature of magical education at Hogwarts. Most importantly, he'd found something he'd sought his entire life, a true sense of family and purpose. What are you thinking? Wednesday asked, catching his introspective mood through their connection. Harry smiled. That the prophecy was right. We are overturning foundations. Just not in the way anyone expected. Wednesday nodded in understanding. Mother would approve. Both our mothers, Harry corrected. Lily and Morticia. Outside their compartment, the wizarding world was changing, adapting to new realities they had helped create. Voldemort remained a threat, diminished but not defeated. The Ministry continued its campaign of denial and control. Ancient magical families watched warily as their traditional influence was challenged. But inside their growing circle, a new reality was already taking shape, one where arbitrary divisions between magical traditions were dissolving, where power came from integration rather than exclusion. Blood of two worlds, Harry murmured, touching the pendant at his neck that matched his sister's. One magic, Wednesday completed, their linked power humming in harmony as the train carried them toward the future they were creating. The Ministry might resist. Voldemort would return. Challenges would arise from unexpected quarters. But the Potter twins had found their purpose, not just survival or victory, but transformation. The work their mother had begun, they would complete, bridging worlds divided by time and intent. Together, they would rewrite the rules of magic itself. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.